this.
Okay, so Gesundheit gets added a lot, but how often does it get added in English?
Good point.
All right, let's mute the TV so
I have been discovered by the Weeaboos. I am crossover sensation.
Did you get it? Yeah.
Yeah, are we live?
Oh.
Are we?
I need somebody to check that for me.
Yeah, we're live.
All right, awesome. Welcome back. It has been quite some time, my fellow Hentai Literature Club members, but we welcome you back to the sacred confines of the Hentai Literature Club. We're here. We talk about hentai through the lens of literary criticism. If you don't know what hentai is, when we use it, we usually mean ero-manga and ero-anime, erotic works of fiction made in Japan, but in this case, made by a German artist known as Gesundheit.
Now, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm very curious about this guy's backstory, especially after the chapter he self-inserted him in.
Oh.
So is he a German expat living in Japan?
I'm not sure. That's what I would assume, because I know that's how it is for Shindal, who I believe is an American expat making hentai in Japan. I'm not sure if they live in their home country and send their work digitally, or that's something I was unable to research as well as I would have liked to.
I'm very curious. A lot of the stuff I've seen in his work and looking at his Twitter, since I just tagged him, please show up, Gesundheit. We would love to talk to you. It definitely seems like, one, he has a very solid grasp of the culture. Two, he tweets entirely in Japanese. So, yeah, it could be said that maybe that's just where his fan base is, but I would imagine the guy at least lives and or vacations in the country. Anyway, I'm sorry, continue. I just completely shot us off course.
No, that's completely fine. But as usual, I am the Hentai Literature Club president, and I have the usual club members here with me, Chaz, Melinda, Xavier, and Anai. And yes, this is the second season of the Hentai Literature Club, so what we're talking about this time is we're focusing on artists rather than tags, and as I said, this is the episode we're talking about the artist Gesundheit and his ero-manga collection, Non-Entity Girls. So to get right into it, what did you all think about this, and how many of you managed to read the whole work?
I read the whole thing.
All right,
Yeah.
everybody. I only asked them to read 3 things, but this episode took a little longer to produce than usual, so everybody did have some extra time.
We all got to see everything.
I wasn't planning on reading the entire thing, but I just kind of started going through it and then
It was too good for you to put down.
read off. Yes, definitely.
I'm gonna be very honest. I read the entire thing in between the time it took Melinda to do her makeup. So I woke up today and I was like,
Porn.
You were like in the daily life of an ero-manga artist where he's forcing people to read it.
that chapter. I love that chapter so much.
I know, that is the one I want to talk the most
Yes, yes.
about.
yes,
I will slowly get to it.
I understand we got to save the best for last.
So yes, so this is the artist Gesundheit. This is not obviously everything he's done. He's done a lot of ero-manga work.
How's it going, LARP Crafter? Doing well. How about yourself?
Oh yes, welcome to the club. What did you all tend to notice popping up a lot in this particular collection of stories? Because obviously there is a framing device here, and this is our hentai large TV screen that we have over here, which you are unfortunately not allowed to see on YouTube.
A lot of magic.
A lot of magic.
And
If you wanna call it that.
acceptance of magic. Like, nobody
Yeah.
really questioned anything. They just
Everyone's
accept,
like,
like,
yeah, this is
Yeah,
normal.
this is
Okay.
totally normal.
So yeah, it's almost kind of like magical realism in that way, isn't it? For those of you who don't know what magical realism, it is a
it's part of their world, so it's...
yeah.
It's normal.
Well, it's a literary movement mostly coming from South America,
Oh, no.
where a lot of magical elements pop up in the story, but people tend to
Yeah,
accept
Daestra,
it
hold
at
your
face
screen,
value.
read it. Hi, Daestra.
Hello, Daestra. It's been so long since we've heard from you, friend.
So it stems from South America. That's interesting.
Yeah, which is something interesting I really like about Gesundheit, because to me it seems like they have some sort of education or knowledge about different art movements. Because in the first story, I thought I saw like a pretty clear use of surrealism, and I'll get into that once we get more into the stories. But other than that, kind of just like acceptance of strange things happening, and like just pure acceptance of like magical or outworldly things happening.
Now, I feel like I ask this like every other stream, but is that a deliberate thing, or is that just something in hentai? Because I was thinking about this, and again, I'm going to try very hard not to talk about that super good one. But I was thinking, as somebody who tries to make a career out of creative aspects, CAFCON being an extremely slow burn, my current writing project shaping up to be an extremely slow burn, I was thinking, you know what? One of these days, I should just take a genuine stab at writing actual erotica. And then I thought about it, and it's like, in order to get comfortable in that, I have to do the same thing I did getting comfortable with role-playing games, where I can't take it too seriously. And I might end up having to be the next Chuck Tingle, because I don't know how stuff like High School Futanari Dick Warriors would translate to American prose.
Well, I think in his work, I think it's deliberate the way he uses things, because something I noticed pop up a lot is Gesundheit makes use of parody a lot in his work. Almost every story in this collection either parodies something that you see as like a very stereotypical hentai scenario, or he's parodying a very particular work, like in the text Suraimon, or he's parodying like the delinquent manga. Delinquent manga is something that is like a real genre in Japanese manga and anime. And he's making fun of that in the Class Rep versus the World series, and then he's kind of parodying the whole post-apocalyptic series with the story of the New Century Warrior one at the end. So to me, it seems like he's deliberately parodying some of the things that he sees in media, at least in Japanese
I saw a little
media.
bit of Fist of the North
That's
Star.
that's what I thought he was kind of parodying at first.
That was pretty funny.
Did that one? We'll talk about it when we get there. But I'm pretty sure there's one guy that had like his chest fucked through.
No.
There's just an explosion. Oh, sorry. Continue.
No, yeah. So
Gesundheit is awesome. This is the best book we've read since starting this podcast.
yeah, I noticed a lot of parody, and I noticed like a lot of one of the things I noticed is the use of metafiction, where the text seems to acknowledge itself as a piece of fiction. I noticed like the use of surrealism, that kind of element of magical realism.
I definitely saw surrealism in the first one.
Yes.
I saw metafiction in Daily Life of an Ero-manga Artist. Sorry, magical acceptance. Does technology count as magical acceptance? Because at least for the second one, the submission suit, and I would even say the post-apocalyptic one, I would say it's definitely more technology inclined than magical realism. And the reason I differentiate the two is because I would say technology, especially in our modern day, gets way more of a pass. It's the old Arthur C. Clarke quote that sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. But in our day and age, we just assume, they're going to figure it out eventually. So if you put whirring lights and gizmos on something, then nobody's going to question, period. The time stripper Reiko one was definitely, whatever, I can stop time, that's cool.
Well, is there anything else that you all noticed that came up a lot, or like particular themes you saw emerge a lot as you read through the works?
Like I said, he's got a very, very solid cultural grasp for. Well, again, this is why I'm so fascinated at wanting to know what this guy's story is. Because if he's an expatriate from Germany and he adopted this culture as his own, he's got a pretty firm grasp of it, and obviously has enough love to it. Because, like we always say with the how not tos, in order to make fun of something, you really have to love it. This guy loves the culture that he's adopted. If he grew up in Japan, well, then I have to wonder at what point he's coming at this from. Is it an outsider looking in? Is it somebody maybe with a different family situation than typical Japanese mangaka might have? I don't know. And I am monopolizing the fucking conversation. I'm gonna shut the right up. You tell me what you think.
He really likes Funari.
Big.
Thank you, Professor.
I was gonna say he likes penises, but not so much men, because there weren't that many men.
Yeah, no, there wasn't.
Yeah, that's something interesting, because a lot of times I think when a man, or what you're assuming is a man making an ero-manga work, a lot of times it seems the focus is on the male pleasure and the narrative following the male protagonist. In this one, all the characters that the stories focus on are female protagonists.
Also a lot of strange side characters.
Well, how would you like to elaborate upon that?
Well, you got the sex stand
In the first story?
who's just pent up libido given form.
He also really likes the punishment aspect a lot in a lot of his stories.
That is something I noticed as well.
Like,
Divine retribution.
he just likes to have them usually
Like
a
a
lot of the
cock.
time either like forced or like tied up and punished. One of those two things.
Yeah.
So I do want to respond to something Larpcrafter just said. Technology is only magic in nature if you're using it in terms of hundreds and thousands of years backwards from our current time. Honestly, so the way I look at it, there's a quote in Mage the Ascension 20th Anniversary, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't have it memorized, but it's basically like, with the device you're reading this book on, that you're holding in your hand, you can view something in Africa, and then look something up, and then view something in England, and if that's not magic, then what is? So that's kind of how I see it. We can do incredible shit with this, and I'm just saying, like, from a literary perspective, if we attribute something to technology, I've noticed that the audience as a whole tends to be way more lenient than to where if we try attributing it to magic. Not by a huge margin, because they both obviously disbelief is suspended with a crane, but I think with technology we don't seem to question it, whereas if it's magic, then all of a sudden now we want to know how it works, we want to know the rules behind it, does it make sense, is this plausible?
It really depends on the nerd. Like if you try to put science and you put it in front of engineers, they'll be like, okay, no, hold on.
Yeah, you're right.
I find that out a lot when I'm playing Shadowrun.
You're just like, oh, shut up, nerds.
No, they do bring up good points.
But Master and the Commander, let me get some of those donuts.
Okay.
Hi, Freddy.
You want some of our D&Ds?
So yeah, some of the themes I saw come up a lot. Melinda, you mentioned a lot of the punishment aspect, which I thought was interesting.
Also, rape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I saw a lot of he directly addresses this in the daily life of an ero-manga artist, but he likes to work with reversed expectations. In almost every story, I thought there was an element of repressed desires coming out of the characters.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I saw bullying as an idea come up a lot, punishment, and
Bullying, yeah.
at some point kind of like gender identity in some of the stories, or at least not as a directly addressed kind of thing, but something that just kind of comes up with like cross-dressing characters and futanari and stuff like that.
Like to the side kind of deal. Like,
I'd say that was more of like an undercurrent kind of thing rather than something that he was directly trying to write about.
Now, the gender identity was definitely very interesting when it got to the class rep versus the world one. I don't know if you want to go into more detail when we get to that, but
yeah, we'll get into more detail.
Also to the one with what's it? The second one, Suraimon. That one, I thought got interesting with the gender identities.
Yes, that's the one where I mostly saw it. But yeah, let's get into actually talking about the text. So, who would like to summarize the first story, which is Depth Psychology Rendezvous? Is this? You told me this was your favorite one.
Yeah, this was my favorite one.
Why?
Because it was
pretty interesting.
I just thought it was kind of funny, and
Oh, excuse me, honey.
Yeah.
Just do we have the text posted in the Discord so I can pick it?
Yes, if you go to the Hentai Literature Club, you can find the summaries and whatnot of the stories we're reading. Oh, I'm pointing the wrong way. There we go.
Guys, free porn. Join the Discord. Does PewDiePie give you porn? I think not. Best YouTube channel NA.
And I think somebody actually recently posted their own drawn porn at some point, or their friend's drawn porn.
really,
Yeah.
well,
That's pretty
So
cool.
yeah, join our Discord.
yes.
Actually, before we get into the stories, there's one thing I wanted to talk about. What did you think of the title of the collection, Non-Entity Girls?
Non-entity girls.
And it's something that comes up at the beginning of almost all the stories, including this one with
I think there's just like one where she goes, "I'm not your."
I'm not your
Yeah,
typical
yeah,
girl. I'm not a
non-entity girl.
non-entity.
Yeah.
That's the time stripper Reiko.
Yeah.
Now there was that I guess thread that runs through the beginning of all of them that kind of unifies them. Did he create all of these specifically for this Tonko-boon? Because usually Tonko-boons are reprints, aren't they?
No, I actually think only the last two were made for this one.
Really? So I want to talk to this guy. Like, what's the story there? Did he make that panel just for this, or is this a recurrent theme in his work?
Well, you don't get to ask him unless he shows up, so you have to use your powers of deduction to the best of your capabilities.
That's what we're here for.
You know what? I'm thinking he just had like this is part of the non-entity series, which when you look at it like that.
But what does it mean when the girls say, "I'm your typical girl. I'm just a total non-entity"?
They don't stick out in any way
Yeah,
whatsoever. So
no, it's kind of plain jeans.
Just like
Wallflowers.
it could be any girl, really.
Which kind of plays in the magical realism in a way, doesn't it? Where magical realism, it's kind of unusual things happening to ordinary people.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, go ahead. Would you
Okay.
like to give a brief summary of Depth Psychology Rendezvous?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, Rufo. I'm sorry. So it's a girl that goes to study at just like a guy's apartment. And she's looking at his books and goes like, oh, these are all very smart. Oh, he's probably super impressive. Looks under his bed and there's hentai along with this like weird magical looking man that I would expect to see in like a circus as like the tattooed man or something like that.
A ringleader with his mustache.
Yeah.
We've gotten one thumbs down so far.
What?
I think somebody just pops in and goes, no boobs, can't fap. Imagine if it was Gesundheit himself.
No.
Goddamn weeaboos.
I cannot be understood.
So yeah, she sees. Oh, I think Adam's here.
Would you go get the door for him?
We have company.
Thank you. Go ahead and keep going.
Yeah, she sees this circus man come out of the bed, panics, and then realizes she's the only one that can see him.
Did you read the porn? Get the fuck out.
I don't remember about you guys.
So you show up and you didn't even read the goddamn porn.
I did it.
Not only are you late, you didn't do your homework.
Adam.
You'll ever do homework? No, it's it.
You're gonna have to squeeze in the corner somewhere.
Yeah. We'll get
You can sit on my lap, Kalai.
Senpai.
Oh, Adam insists on being called senpai.
And it seems like he brought treats.
Yeah, about the strawberry, for the viewers, strawberry Kit Kats. Too bad you guys can't get them yet.
Yeah, you can't eat them, so we'll eat them for you.
Yeah, high shoes as well, of course.
Oh, careful now.
Okay, now Chaz is out of the picture.
You're gonna have to scoot a little more in, Chiz. There you go.
You guys have to cuddle.
Look at the laptop.
Alright, go.
Okay. So she realizes she's the only one that can see him because the guy can't see him, and the circus man explains that he is the embodiment of
Naruto's.
like desires.
Is that a real name?
Yeah.
I've never heard of anybody named Naruto outside the annoying anime protagonist.
The hentai protagonist.
The hentai protagonist.
The
Naruto.
So,
Can I grab one?
Yeah.
so
Isn't that the empty back still?
so
Dave's
she.
just calling you out.
Really? Still waiting on that Adam and Xavier.
So he kind of starts. Well, she realizes this, and then her embodiment of her desires comes out, and it just looks like her, nothing weird. And then the two beings start kind of having sex with each other, trying to, it's what they wish they were doing. But the real people are just kind of like sitting there, really nervous, trying to study, really doing
But they also
nothing.
touch each other's knees, though.
They touch each other's knees. That turns him on.
It's so lit.
Yeah, he's just like,
He's like, oh, my knee. And then that's just kind of how it goes. Nothing happens between them. And a month later, she's like, fuck this. I can't keep this up. And I'm going to tell him how I feel. And she
We're
tells him
gonna
how I feel.
flop.
And that's it.
Yeah. We're
So
gonna do what our imagination already did.
Yeah, you said that he kind of looks like a circus man, but to me there's like a, not obvious, but to me he looks a lot like Salvador Dali.
You know what? I saw that too.
And that's why it made me initially make the connection to be like, oh, it's kind of like a surrealist kind of story kind of happening. And I thought that was happening partially because the man looks like Salvador Dali,
I
though.
like his jaunty bow tie as well.
So here's,
Chippendale.
Chippendale.
Daestra says, aren't your guys' knees touching?
All of us. You don't want to know what's going on in our heads, though.
Just huge fucking psychological orgy.
Here we go. Oh, I started making the connection to the art movement of surrealism because the man looks like Salvador Dali. As you know, Salvador Dali, famous surrealist painter.
He's the guy that did the melting watches, right?
Yes. So surrealism as an artistic movement sought to resolve the previously contradictory conditions of dream and reality into an absolute reality known as a super reality, and that's a quote from a surrealist artist called Andre Breton. So that kind of got me thinking about how in this story you kind of have these two characters and their subconsciousnesses are kind of connecting with each other, and what these two characters are kind of desiring are being brought about in their subconsciousness subconscious eye, or I don't know how you would say that in the plural.
Is it actually a connection between them? Because he can't see what's going on. Only she can see it.
It seems like she has some sort of magical something that lets her see.
Oh yeah, because hers didn't look strange. Hers just looked like her.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was another thing I noticed. Like, are we certain that this isn't representing her fantasy and that he actually has nothing to do with it?
Or is it maybe that his fantasies are a little fucked up and that's why he looks so fucked up?
Well,
and hers are pretty vanilla, so she just kind of looks like herself.
Well, to me, it kind of...
Maybe he just wishes he was a scrawny white dude.
Well, kind of look at the title, right? It's Depth Psychology Rendezvous. So to me, it's almost like the story, what you would consider the inciting action of the story happens in that moment right there where she looks under the bed, she sees the porn magazines, and then she kind of acknowledges that this guy isn't just some sort of impressive student. He also has his own sexual desires. He has sexual fantasies. And that, to me, is kind of what allows her to see this embodiment of, like, his libido or his subconscious.
I'll be honest, for the first 3 pages, I thought it was going to turn out to be like some kind of weird sex robot or something.
I thought so
This,
too.
this is just my butler, Gustav.
No. Like, for me, I thought, like, is it a stand? It's only I can see it, though.
Also, when he comes out, he says something like, "I'm not a suspicious person." Like, if he's coming out, I'm saying you're not a suspicious person doesn't make you not suspicious. I would have still panicked. She was just kind of like, "Oh, okay."
Oh, she screams
Yeah,
when she
yeah.
sees him.
But after that, he says he's not suspicious. And she's
Yeah.
just still kind of like.
Well, you'd have to assume something unusual is going on when the other person can't see the person.
Yeah.
That's interesting, Daestra. That's pretty good.
What did Daestra say?
Gonna make a weird connection, but the name Naruto is used. Naruto's last name is Uzumaki. Uzumaki means spiral, and his psyche has spirals in the skin and mustache.
Yeah, well, some people kind of consider, like, the spiral to be, like, a symbol of the mind as it kind of twists to a center that you can't fully perceive.
Well, he said so. Maybe it's a weird meta message saying he likes Naruto.
Well, didn't you also say that he parodies a lot of like anime stuff?
Yeah, but I wouldn't, to me, other than the name, I wouldn't make any connection to the Naruto Ninja series other than just the fact that it has the same name. That's like if a character in a book had the name John, you'd be like, oh, this must refer to the Gospel of John in the Bible, kind of. I wouldn't make that connection.
Okay, no. That's more like if a character in a book had the name Cher. Like, there's not too many Narutos out there.
That you know of, though. You don't know how... You don't know exactly how common of a name
You know,
Naruto
fair
is
the
in
fuck
Japan.
enough.
Because like, the weaves that were growing up during that time are having kids now. So they're probably doing the kids.
Okay, no. First of all, you're implying that they had sex.
They might have had their I don't know, man. It's like people are naming their kids Khaleesi and whatnot. Yeah.
Xavier doesn't like Game of Thrones.
It's not that I don't like Game of Thrones, just I don't like people naming their kids that, like...
You don't want to name your kid Legolas?
I wouldn't name my kid Legolas, first of all, because unless he can defy physics...
Well, that's why you name him that. You're like, no, you have something to live up to, boy.
Tall order.
So why do you all think that the male character kind of has this crazy, surrealist kind of subconscious as compared to the girl has a subconscious that looks exactly like her?
He has to be a pervert.
That's a little harsh.
I think
You got a pedo stash.
I think it
What?
goes to
I never said
her.
pedophile. I said pervert.
I know. I'm extrapolating. Please continue, Xavier.
It goes to her describing herself as a non-entity, and so when she projects herself, it's just her because she's not much else.
And he's an interesting, like,
He's
smart
smart.
man.
He's doing. Well, I don't know how.
He has a book on Japanese tax law.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about. Yeah, he's gonna be a lawyer, and then he's also got Faust in there. I don't know how to feel about that. That's probably why that guy's under the bed.
So Daestra said, and this is something I wanted to point out, also makes me think of like repressed sexuality, which is kind of a thing in Japan when dealing with 3D women. So
I guess it also like maybe the different appearance of his psyche represents him being one step removed from his desires, where she's more in tune.
Yeah, because throughout the story, he starts to acknowledge he's having sexual thoughts about her, and he's like, oh, this is a nice girl, she trusts me. I shouldn't think these things about her. He pushes it down even further. To me, that's why he kind of looks so weird.
So basically, it's like he's the anomaly for not acting up on it.
I wouldn't say.
Well, that's what I mean by being a pervert.
But
like,
then he
has
just gets
repressed stuff.
But then his psyche just becomes a penis.
You know what? Can we talk about what the fuck that meant?
Yeah.
Because when he admitted to true love, it just
Page
became a
24.
dick with a halo and hands.
Like, what are you trying to say? Guys aren't much more
His,
than
yeah,
their
that
penis?
his pure feelings materialized into just a big old penis.
There you go, ladies.
Well, no,
A
it's
penis is just pure love. Accept it.
Well, no. What it means.
Hold on, is your penis radiating and that big though?
And it has a halo.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know, with the right lighting.
It's
This would be an enormous cock ring.
it's just
It's
Oh!
just a door knocker.
it's just like the light for the camera, like the focus.
The
like,
camera.
It's not the lens flare.
yeah, it's just the sparkling.
Yeah.
But it is literally just a floating dick and balls, and I think there's a panel where you see hands.
Okay, but to what Daestra was talking about, the sexually repressed feelings, you know, that just the knee touching, it gets him really going. Like what? I'm sorry, I have to get the roof out.
No, it's okay. No, too. So going back to when I mentioned the connection that I saw to surrealism, surrealism tries to represent dreams and subconscious through a super reality. So to me, what's happening between the two characters' consciousnesses, to me, it just seems like something that happens in the real world, something as simple as our knees touch together, gets represented in like a super reality where it kind of represents what these two characters truly desire, which is a sexual intimacy or a physical intimacy.
Let's not also forget, when you're that young, just about anything will get you going. I mean, when I was a freshman in high school, a whiff of perfume and I'm fucking revved up.
Wow.
It's weird for us. Me personally, I was super repressed.
That's because when we're young we can start pumping babies, right? And then and for women it's a little later.
I mean, not for me, but sure.
Well, you're not older yet.
You were an uncommonly early bloomer. I think even you would have to admit that.
Yes, I know that.
Were there any other elements or points in the text you all wanted to point out or things that you found interesting?
I still want to dissect the floating dick with the halo. What the hell does that mean?
It's just pure love.
Well, something I didn't mention that I saw come up a lot in this particular text, the collection, is that penises seem to get used as a symbol a lot, which isn't... You can be like, oh, well, that's weird, but penis symbology is something that's as ancient as culture, pretty much.
That's true, and I also have to wonder, like, because they have the penis festival in Japan, right? So what does it?
That sounds like so much fun.
What does that reflect in their culture? I have to wonder.
Well, a lot of cultures have penis symbology. It's just like a lot of them get rid of it over time, or not even get rid of it over time. I'm not an anthropologist. I can't make a broad, sweeping judgment like that, but it's something where some cultures have it and some cultures never had it or got rid of it. But in here, it seems to be like a representation of true love, because I guess in a way it's kind of stripping away everything else. But I also think it's interesting because what does it mean when true love is represented in their minds as a sexual experience?
Because it's as rare. True love is as rare as having sex. For the... Was that mean? That was mean. I'm sorry.
They have a declining birth rate. That's not nice.
Sorry.
Well, think of it. It's kind of hard to represent an act of true love. But however, some people would argue that sexual intimacy is a part of love. Therefore, if you were to kind of think of a reductionist manner, you could argue that the act of sexual intimacy could represent a true act of love.
Yeah,
You
there's
know
some
what?
people that go like, I want to show him, like, I actually want to physically show him how much I love him.
To me, that's what I would argue is happening there with that whole true love gets reduced, or true feelings get reduced to a penis with a halo.
That's probably why their birth rate's down. They're just waiting for love.
But I thought it was kind of interesting in that something I also saw that happens a lot in this work particular, not in this text, but the collection itself, is that the womb gets superimposed over the character's mind. And it happens again in the class rep versus the world when the class rep is fingering the first girl and she's like, it's like she's fingering my brain.
Yeah, I remember that.
That happens not a lot in this work, but it comes up enough times to me that I thought it was interesting that there's this drawn connection in the collection between like sexual pleasure in a character's mind.
Maybe it's just like because it's so good you can't think at that point.
I think that's definitely one way of looking at it. I was trying to, not that I was trying to imagine, but I was wondering if it was like there's a connection between like the act of sexual or physical intimacy with like our understanding of love in our mind.
You know what's interesting? When his psyche digivolves into Angiopenismon, the spirals on the skin aren't spirals anymore. They're more like elaborate, like butterfly wing designs.
On the penis?
No, like the whole.
Look at
like
look at the arm in the bottom left-hand panel.
Oh. Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Yes, he got the Fey patron for his gross.
I also thought it was interesting that there's also this almost kind of like Buddhist kind of.
I saw that
Yeah,
too.
like
Yeah.
the Buddha thing.
It definitely looks like. You know, again, I'm not an anthropologist. I owned a Bhagavad Gita once, and that's about it. But that almost looks more like.
There's this really spiritual imagery
Yeah,
that
yeah.
on.
To me, it looks more Hindu than Buddhist.
Yeah.
But
So that's what I thought was something.
that's
that-
probably super offensive that I just said that about porn, isn't it? I feel like if a Hare Krishna was in the room, they wouldn't take kindly to
Well,
it.
even the bottom, like the bottom panel.
You're going to
yeah,
hell
like,
now,
who the-
Chaz.
it's like-
Chaz, you're going to hell now. I'm sorry to tell you.
That was a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, the bottom
But
panel
now,
looks like
now you're gonna go to a horse hell.
Yeah.
Hindu hell, yeah, Hindu hell's pretty bad.
But even like the bottom corner though, there's like a little like looks like Buddha. Kind
Yeah, her in the meditative position,
Yeah.
or her subconscious.
Is
is in
even
that
like that
position.
And then
Yeah,
it
they-
kind of looks like she has a crown as well.
Yeah.
But that's also something that comes up in a lot of religious imagery, including some Hindu sex as in SECTS, that and just a lot of religions in general, that there's a connection sometimes between sexual ecstasy and sexual pleasure as well as like divine revelation. That's something you even see in Christian poetry from like the 16th century from England, where you have somebody like John Donne who combines religious imagery and poetry with sexual images and like God won't you take me and stuff like that, and it sounds very sexual and stuff like that.
Interesting.
Or letting God in you.
Yeah, letting God into you is seen as like a sexual act of like a penis entering a vagina. Yeah, there's a lot to talk about, so let's get on to the next work because we actually all read this. So who wants to summarize the second story, Suraimon?
Adam?
Teacher just called on you. What are you gonna do?
I know it's like is that one that's
This is the one with the robot.
She's being raped.
yeah, that's the one. Okay.
Yeah, that's another thread throughout his work. Everybody's just super cool with rape.
Yeah.
I mean,
okay.
they're not cool with it.
Not
Okay,
at first.
but it's like an inconvenience. Like, oh, I get bullied.
Yeah. Okay. So whoever summarizes.
She's got a mop in her ass. Oh, I'm getting bullied.
I really want to talk about that first, or that first page on that panel.
Well,
Is
then it's weird
insane.
because then they appreciate it afterward. It's like, what? Okay.
Well, if Adam's not going to summarize it.
Well, it's a girl that's getting bullied, and then she first, what was the thing that she got a sexy costume that made her let her for some reason has battery in it that whenever you can just tell people what to do or
So
basically that.
Yeah, the girl's name is Vita, and she has a robot from the future sent to her by her grandson that helps her by giving her devices in order to help her cope with her bullies and her bad social life. Do any of you know where that premise comes from? And it's kind of in the name of the story.
You did say that was a parody of something else, right?
This one in particular is a parody of a very specific work, and you can tell by the last panel if you know what the work looks like.
Wait, I think I know. Hold on. Maybe I don't.
I guess I'm just not.
Oh
that
wait,
much of a fucking
is it the
weeb
one
about
with the
class here.
cat that's like time traveler? I can't.
Doraemon.
Doraemon. There we go.
Doraemon, yeah.
I've never watched Doraemon.
Doraemon is the story about a young boy who gets bullied by these two kids, and there's a girl that he likes. He gets a cat robot sent to him from one of his descendants in the future.
And they can like time travel. And
Yeah, and the cat robot is able to bring these devices from the future to help the kid cope with his problems. Usually it just makes things worse for him, and there's kind of like a lesson at the end of every chapter, every episode.
It's great. I used to watch.
Which
it in
really, what is
Spanish.
the point of that thing yet? kind of like Fairly Odd Parents, like all your wishes suck.
But
So yeah, what did you want to say about this first page?
Okay, she has a mop in her ass. There's I think I counted, and it's about 8 condoms around, as well as what's coming out of her already, which I don't understand what the point of the condoms were.
They ran out.
Maybe.
And they stuffed her clothes in the toilets.
They did that, and she calls it being bullied. Like, what the fuck? Can I curse here? I don't even
Yeah, you can curse, but I
What's the
thought
frick frack?
Out of all those things that we have said in this episode, I am surprised that you would even think that might be off the table.
But anyway, yeah.
no. It's not that I think it's meant to be okay in the story. I think part of what the artist does is he kind of gives you these extreme scenarios, and he takes it to a ridiculous level. I think it connects to the story daily life of an ero-manga artist, where it's like these stories are so extreme, and rape as an element in hentai happens so much. To me, it's almost kind of like he's making fun of it.
So it's a self-parody?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a self-parody, but to me it's almost like a parody of rape and hentai in general. Where it's like, look at this extreme heat, that looks like it's suffering, right? Like, that's a lot, like, obviously, as you pointed out, that's a lot more than bullying. But it's presented as bullying, and then it results in a comical situation, or comical in quotations, if that's how you want to look at it.
So, yeah, he's being critical of the genre by illuminating the ways in which the genre that this is played off as just no big deal or just another thing,
Yeah.
by taking it to a fucking logical extreme.
Yeah.
Also, because the punishment is rape. So, if her getting bullied wasn't this extreme, we would have thought her punishment was really extreme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It still is, but in this way, like, oh, they deserve it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like there's a little bit of, oh, okay, I get it.
And to me, that's also kind of parodying the work that it's based off of in Doraemon, in that the main protagonist kind of uses these future devices to also kind of torture his bullies, and the bullies torture him, but then like it usually ends up like at a stalemate kind of, in that it's kind of making fun of this whole idea of like punishing people in a way. I'm trying to collect my thoughts as best I can.
Take your time.
No, who here has anything interesting to say, or what you noticed, or what you liked or thought was interesting about the text?
She has a very diverse group of bullies.
Yes.
And this is the one where I was really like, oh, the sexual identity thing is very, I mean, it's really out there. It's also very accepted along with the rape, so, I mean, that was nice.
I thought it was interesting that she really hates the fact that people accept the other characters for who they are,
Yeah.
and that she kind of doesn't accept them for who they are.
Well, again, I have to ask, is that the case? Because with the one transgender girl, the second one, it was like, his name is Gen, but nobody calls him that because she's super strong and good at martial arts. Do they really accept him, or?
I thought it was like
Just
nobody
fear.
stands up to him because he's super
Fear the
smart.
mus-
They're afraid of the muscle tag.
Yeah.
Well, that's on the other girl, Giganto.
But yeah, I mean, we have a girl that was so tired of men and that she, first of all, asked her parents to buy her a penis. How do you even go about having that conversation? Anyway.
Magical realism.
And then a boy that is super cute and dresses like a girl and it appears like boyfriends around her.
That one's Bichuka,
And then the super strong girl
Giganto,
with the really ugly boy
younger
brother.
brother. Yeah, in a way, it kind of seems like I mentioned this before when we were talking about it before we started recording. I feel like Gesundheit kind of writes characters that you're not supposed to sympathize with completely, because like she's not shown exactly to be a nice person, even though she's having this extreme bullying put upon her, and that she kind of hates the fact that people accept these other characters for what they are, but at the same time she just kind of makes fun of that girl's brother and calls him ugly.
Yeah.
So
It's like,
she's still.
And then, of course, the I guess you would call it dead naming that one character.
Oh yeah.
So she's not very accepting herself, I guess.
Basically, everybody in this universe is kind of shitty.
No, she didn't.
Except the cat robot. We can all empathize with the cat robot from the future.
He even has the moon on his stomach like Doraemon does.
Yeah.
Oh, she has a massive cock.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah, the previous panel, right there.
I thought that was interesting. That
I
he
don't
just-
think Doraemon had a penis.
I
Well,
thought-
You haven't read the right dojins.
You'd be surprised, and because he's a cat, it's also barbed.
I thought that
Oh,
was,
no.
that was, like, really
The
weird.
hooks just come out.
Just expand.
I thought that was interesting. Does he always give her something whenever he jizzes in her? Like, unexpectedly?
In the actual cartoon, he has like a pocket in his stomach that he kind of pulls the devices out of.
Mm.
To me,
So
this
this
just
one
seems like
comes out
that.
of his dick.
Yeah, this seems to be like just a hentai joke equivalent of that.
He literally spooged it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that before.
You didn't notice that?
He literally jizzed out the fucking robot costume. That is amazing.
Also, what a super cool grandkid. Just be like, hey, go help my grandmother. I guess fuck her too.
So that way you can be born.
I have to question about that grandkid though.
He's from a different time.
A more liberal time. So here's where I also kind of saw that element of like repressed sexual desire, where now that she has kind of like the Ring of Gygus kind of thing going on, where people can't tell exactly what she's doing. She masturbates in front of her teachers. Like, I've always wanted to do this kind of thing.
I don't know
Exhibitionism.
Yeah, exhibitionism. While in the first story, it was the male protagonist kind of had the repressed sexual desire, and that he was kind of pushing his sexual desires in a place where they were repressed and becoming that stand, as everybody keeps jokingly calling it. Was there anything else you all read about this story? Was this anybody's in particular favorite story? As Depth Psychology Rendezvous was your
Out of the
favorite
two
story?
that you've read so far while you've been
Yeah,
here,
no,
which is your
I read them all like at 2 in the morning before work. I'm like, okay.
A time before G-Mills.
I think the story's kind of funny, and obviously you can pick it apart, but to me this story wasn't one of my favorites.
Yeah, she was just kind of a jerk. I mean, her bullies were also kind of jerks, but you know.
Well, she paid him back in love.
No, Adam. It wasn't a pure penis.
At the end, the super strong girl gets still overpowered by the tiny, cute boy, and I was just like, really?
He has master martial arts skills.
But look at her muscles. Like, you don't think she could have been
Right
like
there.
pushed?
Yeah.
Xavier, does that girl have your tags?
Yeah.
Tall, muscle?
Though, her arms are, I don't know, that's borderline like dehydration.
Oh, kind of like Hugh Jackman when he's filming the Wolverine movies.
Yeah.
He's like, dude, arms more or less, because like that's too much.
What are you saying, Adam?
Like,
Because those are actual dude arms.
even like the forearm, it's like she's been whacking,
Yeah, she's been jerking off dicks. You got a problem with it?
Then he kind of draws them comically huge in some of the other
Yes,
panels.
Hulk smash.
And then this. But look at that, just huge, massive arms. And then, you know.
Yeah.
Beautiful technique.
Do you appreciate that wrestling move right there? Oh yeah. Yeah, I also thought it was interesting how well he's able to draw like submission holds like that. That's an excellent understanding of the way the human bodies interact.
I think that is straight up just a parody of UFC fights, where it's just like, if they didn't have that layer of clothes between them, this would be something else. And yep, he's just like, yeah, I guess it would be, wouldn't it?
Oh, I also forgot to mention, Gesundheit isn't just an ero-manga artist. He also does non-ero-manga, including a horror series that if you go to his Twitter, you can see it.
Wait, so that's just... I thought it was like horror hentai.
No.
He just... regular mangaka? That's interesting.
Yeah. A lot of mangaka do both, or they go from ero-mangaka to regular being just a mangaka.
I didn't think anybody actually did that.
Blarp Crafter said he used his secret ninja sexy power of woo the girl he can't usually get. Also, what kind of submission hold? Gogo Plata? I don't know what that means.
I'm not sure. That does have an actual wrestling name move, doesn't it?
Yes.
That one right there?
Yeah.
Is it a table?
Mm-mm.
I can't remember what it's
Once
called.
upon a
right now.
time, I would have known.
understand, yes.
Yeah, but going back to the idea that the whole thing is like a parody of Doraemon. Well, he's also watching the two cats have sex on TV. The robot.
What?
Yeah, I remember that. I was like, oh, gross.
Bitch, don't look.
Where is he?
He's
He's
right there, just
sleeping
staring
right
at all of us. Judging.
Yeah, if you look at the bottom panels, that's the actual art style for Doraemon.
Mm-hmm.
Like that kind of silly, very simple kind of style.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it pops up a couple of times, some side panels.
Yeah. So, who wants to give us the summary of Class Rep versus the World, Part 1?
Let's do all those summaries.
Somebody else, please. Somebody who read.
I read it, but
I
I
know.
just yeah. I read it at like 2 in the morning.
I suppose I'll take this one.
Was this your favorite series?
Like it was like the sense of justice kind of. Like,
Yeah, I did appreciate the
just ice.
the reverse of
Delinquentism?
Yeah.
Kill la Kill.
No.
They have band-aids over the boobs for some reason.
Oh yeah, you don't want to show nipple at it. That's inappropriate.
But then you see the nipple on the other girl. Then.
Yeah, so class rep, which she just calls herself that.
She doesn't need another name, as you find out in the second part of the story.
Once we find out in the prequel.
Daestra said, I remember seeing many baseball bats in this one, but not used in baseball.
No, yep, we know
Yes.
what you're talking about.
She goes in, and the school is a delinquent school. It's a problem, and she sets out to fix it with her cock.
Yeah, because it turns out she's a futanari.
Yes,
And as
which you don't really see. You're like right here. You'd be like,
But they all kind of grew penises at random.
Yeah.
that's the second story.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
and yeah, she just goes through just like, well, this first chick, she tries to fuck with the class rep, and she
And
finds
then-
out very quickly you don't do that. You get the dick.
She's like, you're gonna be a bitch. And
Well,
say,
she
"Oh,
actually
really?"
doesn't give the
Oh,
dick
yeah,
to this one. She fingers her brain.
She figures her, she corrects her brain through fingering, and she learns how to be proper. Also, that teacher,
Oh,
Yeah. It's
Oh,
just
the buff one?
It's just a Baku. Oh, no.
a Baki character.
Yeah.
The teacher's just spec.
So going back to the title, though, what do you all understand of what a class rep is in Japan? You know, literally in both, like in terms of how they're presented in Japanese media.
It is an elected official that I don't know what they do. I know they're
That's usually the one
they're
that's...
like a
Don't they
student
usually
teacher
do, like,
liaison, right?
paperwork and stuff like that
Yeah.
for classes for events.
Yeah, they-
and
Oh, I
stuff
thought
like
it was
that.
the one that usually gets localized into like the disciplinary committee one.
Disciplinary committees are their own thing.
Oh, okay.
The class rep, like each class has the class rep, right? Usually.
Yes.
Yeah, and then
Usually it's the person that's like in charge of the class, or the person that I don't think you take attendance, but you
if someone's missing, I think you do
Yeah.
your homework. Yeah.
You make sure
Yes.
everything remains in order of the school and people are on time to class
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
for your specific class in this scenario.
Nobody's
Yeah.
fucking in the classroom.
So that's what a class rep literally is. But for obviously there's a lot of anime fans here and manga fans here. What do you typically see as like the representative of a class rep in anime and manga?
The strongest one in the classroom.
They're always really well respected and they're always pretty and well kept and worshipped essentially over other girls.
That are completely ignored. They're just like, yeah, he's the class rep because no one else wants to deal with it.
But every once in a while you get the people that are kind of like mean, I think, towards them too.
Like the disciplinarians.
Yeah, like like you guys are the goody two shoes kind of deal.
So do you all actually know what a sukaban is?
No,
It is the female version of a bancho, if that helps you at all.
Zero.
I
I
know
know,
what
I heard a
bancho is.
bunch of.
Of course you have,
I
Adam.
but I don't remember what it's called. What it is.
A bancho is the leader of a delinquent gang.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
A sukaban is the female version of that. I'm curious if you all actually know anything about like a delinquent subculture in Japan, because to me that's
Buddy,
Don't-
how long do you want to keep pretending we have answers to this?
I mean, I know you played your delinquent in Double Cross.
no.
I missed that
I am
character. It was
familiar
awesome.
with the idea of Japanese delinquents. For those of you who do want to read a delinquent manga or see a delinquent movie,
GTO.
yeah, GTO is one of them. The other one I would recommend is the Crows series, and there's a movie I believe by Takeshi Miike called Crow Zero that's really good. I would recommend those two. But yeah, delinquent manga is its own subgenre in Japan where it's focused around like the story arcs of usually these kind of characters who come from a poor background, they're rebellious. Like if you've seen like the Kuwabara from Yu Yu Hakusho as a delinquent, and other than just calling him a delinquent, they sometimes call them Yankees, which it comes from the the American subculture and GIs, and that like rebellion by using American iconography like the baseball jackets and stuff like that. But Japanese schoolgirls had their own niche in that during the 70s, which was the Sukeban subculture, where a lot of girls weren't accepted in these groups even if they were also outcasts or from poor families or from impoverished backgrounds, so they started their own movement. I don't know if you could connect that too much to this story, because I kind of feel like the way the girls are represented in this story seems more like your stereotypical male delinquent more than like a Sukeban.
They were very masculine.
Yeah.
Their attitudes.
Which is also why I kind of started to see like a gender identity undercurrent in some of his stories, because they're acting like these very rude male delinquent characters, and the class rep kind of reforms them and turns them into like well-mannered, more stereotypical feminine students that do well in school and whatnot.
You see her with her hair down, right? She doesn't look anything like that.
Yeah.
Which if they would tie it back, right? But they wouldn't flick it back like that. That's a very man thing to do.
I mean, speaking of the undercurrent of gender identity, there's also the.
Hold on, Daestra. Yes, girls do throw dildos instead of spit ones.
Well, no, see, that's what I was about to say. There's this like weird conflation with a penis being a weapon, and being equipped with a penis being a warrior, and the bigger dick you have, the better warrior you are. And
They
I
have
mean,
sex
yeah,
toy weapons.
she had the biggest
But
dick.
also the strongest vagina, because when she's
Getting sexually assaulted
I
by the
think that's
teachers.
the next one though again, isn't it?
The first one she gets, she defeats 2 teachers who are
Yeah,
beating her up.
like she
Yeah.
has the strong vagina. She has the master vagina.
I don't know. I thought it was very interesting how, like Dace just said, that one chick just winged the dildo at the chalkboard, and then she hands it back to her. You've made a mistake giving me back my weapon. And then she says, I don't even need a weapon. Ta-da! And then the other one's like, oh, I've heard of people that can achieve the strength of having a weapon without being armed.
Massive cock.
You can't pat down this.
I mean, you can, but it only make it stronger.
Like, if he's got a point here, I might be guilty of domestic assault.
I thought that was just roleplay.
Nope. Like I said, something we didn't bring up
Yes.
at the beginning of the podcast, but that you do see is this kind of use of a penis as a symbol for something other than just a penis. In this case, a penis as a weapon. But also in this case, the penis and like the masculine identity is kind of associated with like this idea of delinquency and bully culture that needs to be gotten rid of. Because in the second story, which is the prequel to this one, all the girls lose their penises once they've been reformed from being like the sexually assaulting bullies they used to be.
But it's also the symbol of the class rep's power. So
Yes.
isn't that kind of like cross symbolism?
I wouldn't say it's cross symbolism, but you could almost see it as like the idea of one object can mean more than one thing, or it's also like I guess how you use it that matters.
Okay, I can go with that.
Obviously, we're just kind of developing the ideas as we speak, so it's not like these
Penises are tools.
I don't know. If Gesundeheit
Tools
dropped
can
in
be
and just tell us what it meant.
It's kind of funny because in some schools of literary criticism thought, the idea is like even if the author tells you what he thought it meant, that doesn't mean that is what it means, because what's also important is how you interpret it.
I have a question for you. Are you a death of the author advocate, or are you authorial intent? Where do you land on that spectrum?
As somebody who studied both creative writing and English literature, because I felt like I wanted to have both perspectives on it, to me as a writer, even sometimes when you're writing, you don't know what the purpose is. You just kind of have something that you're writing. Some people, like Edgar Allan Poe, say that they do have like the theme that they want to portray at the beginning, but it's something that even at the end of it, once you've made it, you have your own interpretation of it, and some would argue your interpretation is the correct one because you made it. Some people would say, even if you have your own interpretation, what if everybody else who reads this has a completely different interpretation to what you do? So I would err on more on the side that an author has their own interpretation of a work, but everybody else, as long as they're responsibly critiquing something, has an equally valid.
So what do you
response to it.
what do you consider responsible critiquing? Because, and this might be a bit of a tangent, but I'm very curious. In the cultural climate we live in today, there's a lot of people that are, I guess, seeing red flags where maybe the alarmism is unwarranted, shall we say? And I feel like if you go completely for death of the author, then that might open a dangerous precedent to where, well, oh no, this is completely homophobic and, you know, transphobic. Well, I didn't mean like that. This is what I meant. Yeah, but, you know, my interpretation is valid.
But I
So you're a
interpret it
transphobe.
that way, therefore you're wrong.
Well, the way I would say it is that a lot of times in my experience from like taking courses where I had to teach people as well as like having to learn how to critique literary works, is that sometimes it's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah, Daestra, that's a good point. Catcher in the Rye. A certain reader took a way different interpretation.
No, exactly. But there's like this idea of that some people, I don't want to say they interpret things wrong, but they
Take
don't.
a lot of liberties.
Yeah, they don't, and they work with ideas that aren't in the text. So, like, obviously, if we read Catcher in the Rye and the message you get is, I should kill all the phonies, that's you projecting your own thoughts onto the text rather than the text telling you you should kill phonies.
But who's to say what's in the text and what's not?
I have somebody who is capable at literary critique.
That, I don't know, this whole thing just seems so subjective. And granted, you are learned and you are trained, but I still feel like I could put you in a room and somebody with the same education from a different part of the world, and you guys might come up with two completely different.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
completely valid.
it is subjective. Like, it's completely subjective
Mhm.
because it you know has to do with also your experiences and your way of thinking and how you take it. But the point is that what you want to do is try to take as much evidence as possible instead of taking like one line and going, this is what it means.
But to
Yeah.
a certain extent, I mean, if you look for something, wouldn't you be able to find things to support it?
Yes.
And a lot of
That's
people
another
can't.
issue.
But it's also the idea, can you prove that connection is valid?
So it's all about what you can prove with what's actually there.
Okay, fair enough.
It's almost kind of like being in a court of law.
I don't know, man. White Wolf just went through a complete shitstorm twice over shit that technically was not there.
Forward.
Yeah.
And they didn't seem to need a lot of proof for it. You
Well,
know what? I actually heard about the Chechnya chapter. What happened was that chapter was originally written completely differently. And it was originally one of the characters being homosexual themselves. The Chechnya chapter was still just bad writing. It was terrible. But one of the characters themselves was a homosexual vampire talking to another vampire that represented Arbrecht. And when it got edited, that's when it got stripped down to a very completely third-party matter of fact, and that's when things hit the shit.
But see, in that kind of situation, when it gets spread out, it's not what the evidence isn't what matters. It's the like tagline. It's the
Yeah, so
they did this.
Yeah, in that case, you're dealing less with somebody interpreting a text incorrectly or not with sufficient evidence and proof, and more of people using the power of the media, or social media in this case, to push their own interpretation of something without needing to present evidence because people are willing to believe them without that evidence.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I don't know. I feel like it's opening a dangerous precedent, but at the same time, I don't feel like it's wrong either. Because I think you're absolutely right. I think an author could put something on the page that they themselves don't necessarily intend to.
yeah. I mean, but
But
it
the-
does happen.
Yeah, the reason you usually
Ah.
assume the death of the author is because 99.99999 with a macron over it % of the time, you're not going to have the author to validate your critique of it.
Right.
Unless you only read books from authors who are still alive.
And then get them to tell you what it means.
And also, unless Gesundheit comes and joins.
And if he does,
Okay, either he's not watching or he thumbs down. So, like, sucking up to him is not gonna do that. But if you happen to see this
What does this mean? It's like, I like dick,
post
dude.
live stream, hit us up for an interview, dog. We'll make that happen. My high school German is worse than my high school Japanese, but I can get us as far as Gesundheit. He gets.
So why did you take German and Japanese? You just want to get the whole access, or?
Well, you
No. I took no. There's a real story behind this. I took
Japanese or French?
I took German because I wanted to be able to import video games. Or no, I took Japanese because I wanted to be able to import video games before waiting for them to be localized. I didn't get far enough to quite be able to do that. And when I moved schools, they didn't offer Japanese anymore.
Third time you went to a school, they were like, "We can teach you Russian."
Damn near. No, I had my choice of. I had Spanish, I had German, I had French, and I had ASL was my choice.
Chaz, if you were an Italian who could speak German, Italian, Japanese, and Russian, people might be concerned.
And
I swear he's not a spy.
And basically left with this dearth of options. I tried taking Spanish, and I didn't do too well, honestly. When it got to like,
I mean, when are you ever going to use Spanish, really?
well, no,
Especially here.
I got to the point with the 8 different congregations of Habla and Hablan and Hablamos, and I could not keep it straight.
It's a hard language to learn.
We don't use vosotros.
So I was like, you know what? I don't. So I dropped Spanish, and so out of the other 3, I was like, okay, what's most useful here? And it's like, you know what? Might as well be able to understand the industrial that I listen to, so I went with German.
But then I would assume learning
I was gonna say,
Japanese is way harder because you have to learn
so
an
German
alphabet.
is easier than Spanish or
Yeah.
something?
And for an English speaker, technically, yes.
Yeah. For an
And
English speaker, yeah.
Japanese was super easy because to me it was like memorization. This symbol is
Well,
this combination of.
Isn't that all language?
Well, no, I never got to kanji, and apparently kanji is when they start winging the curveballs at you.
Really?
Yeah, really.
But with katakana and hiragana, I had a really easy time in Japanese one.
Japanese easy to like beginner level, but like to get to master it though, it's like no one's mastering
Why?
it. Yeah.
I have to be Japanese.
yeah, no one's mastered kanji, not even the Japanese.
Daestra said a good example of bad interpretation is game theory.
What specifically?
Oh, I'm assuming he's talking about like the channel.
I mean, yeah. I've watched a lot of Matt Pat. I don't really anymore because I've kind of gotten sick of him.
Well, I used to watch his videos too when I was like in late high school, but then his content clearly moved more towards like a middle school kind of audience.
Five Nights at Freddy's, yeah.
Yeah.
But I never paid much attention because fan theory is fan theory anyway.
Yeah.
It's not canon. It's speculation that's probably never going to happen, and even if it was going to happen, the IP laws in this country probably means you just prevented it from happening. So it's fucking pretend one way or the other.
The moment I completely...
Looking at you, Dragon Agent.
Okay, so getting back to the text.
Wait.
Oh.
So Daestra, you said English is a really hard language to learn as a second language. I can vouch for that. Like, yeah, it's a difficult language, especially going from a romantic language to that. It was
romantic language. These fucking barbarians.
Yeah.
Anyway, I wanted to point out. I don't know if you guys talked about this when I stepped off, but I wanted to.
She's
Ask,
surprisingly
like-
well kept for a delinquent.
Yeah. Like, how does the sexual submission of this fix them being delinquents?
To me, I was
so
trying
they
to
can
answer.
stop
They
trying
just
to be
needed a good fuck.
Well, because see, masculinity is represented as being very aggressive. So, to put them in submission.
It's
to
kind
kind
of
of-
like someone knocking someone down a peg when they think they're tough shit.
But also, it's almost like she's kind of like reawakening them to like their female sexuality.
That too, yeah.
Like that's kind of what I was considering as a possibility when the fingering of the girl's vagina is connected to the brain, and then afterwards she's
Is
like,
that lobotomized?
yeah, not lobotomized, but it's like there's like this very negative, toxic representation of masculinity that these girls are playing out.
And then you find out that she was at the bottom.
No, yeah.
And you're just like, oh. These people just suck. Yeah, look at all their outfits. Those are very masculine outfits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look at the one on the left just looks like a dude with the
Yeah. The sunglasses?
with
Yeah.
the sunglasses.
Cholo
So is
looking
it
one.
an all-girls school?
Yeah.
Okay.
By the end, they say that when the class rep leaves, it became one of the top female academies.
Also, for a moment, I thought the cornrows was missing an arm.
Oh. No, this
Oh,
isn't.
yeah.
Oh, that's hanging over the side.
I see it.
Over the back.
This isn't Kanoa Shoujo.
Josh, so what qualifies a romantic language?
Language descended from the Romance language, which is Italian. No,
Yusuf,
Italian.
what's up, you great big beautiful
La-
bastard?
Latin.
Latin. Latin. Now you know history.
Yeah, languages descended from Latin are considered Romance languages due to not anything romantic as in lovey-dovey romantic, but coming from Rome.
I was just making a joke.
No,
Oh no, Daestra was asking.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, that one on the left does kind of look like a cholo, though, huh?
Yeah.
I always thought there was this interesting connection between Japanese delinquents and cholos.
Wait, which one? The one with the glasses?
Yeah.
Hey, order levels. Let's put a little subtitle over that.
No, just orale.
Would that be Konnichiwa, Holmes?
That'd be great. That was what a Japanese weeb. I mean, a Mexican weeb.
A Mexican weeb.
He was like, the subtitle.
It's really common though, isn't it? Because I know
It is. It's incredibly common.
Yeah.
Going
Hey,
to
man,
Mexico, like it's incredibly
Those
common.
Mexican weebs can throw Rossing guns so hard they can play wall ball.
Wait, I can't remember. Yusuf says Italian plus French equals languages of love, romance, romantic, sodomy. Wait.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
What do you all think about the scene where the strongest girl in the class kind of calls the other girl a small fry, and then the class rep kind of has that takedown of a small fry as someone who's worthless, miscellaneous, inconsequential, not even worth giving a name to. In other words, it refers to guys like you.
Well, it's because she has to knock down the strongest one to be able to.
It's like,
It's prison rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You are nothing to me. Your penis doesn't even come close to mine.
Japanese cholos hitting switches on their bike with his basket and shit.
Look at that monstrosity.
Well, in the prequel, you see how she got such a big one, though.
Yeah.
Is that how it works?
Yeah.
But that's like, okay, how tall is she? Let's just say like she's like 5'6".
Well, it's up to her boobs. It's not the biggest one we've seen.
No, but that's just.
It's hard to beat
That
Guts'
just happened,
penis.
And that
it is hard
first-
to beat
You
Guts'
you
penis.
haven't seen the hentai like Futabu, where it's like a
Oh.
club of like
Oh.
Kunari
Yeah.
girls, and it's wild.
Yeah.
One girl literally has one that just like comes up to her neck.
Yeah, it's like up to her face almost, and it's like thick, and it's like what?
Yeah, how do you not pass out from blood loss?
And this one, like when she shows her that entire thing down her throat, like to the base, like I'm pretty sure that's some internal trauma right there.
Yeah, look, they have the interior shot, Mortal Kombat style.
Yeah, right. Like her esophagus where it opens up to like let food, and that's destroyed.
You can't talk no more.
She
How's
can't
she
talk.
breathing?
Well, she wasn't breathing.
Through her nose.
No, but that uses the same.
Yeah, he's just.
Yeah.
Do you remember reading in our literary criticisms in class? What was her name? One of the original gender theory people. I think her name starts with a J.
I don't know if I
Janet,
should
maybe,
say.
or Jane. Huh?
Oh, one of the students?
No, not the students. The critic.
Oh,
We had to read her in relation to Mrs. Dalloway.
I can't remember her name.
But she was the one that wrote about the about clothes in connection to like gender identity and like the idea of gender being a theatrical act in a way,
Mm-hmm.
and that it's something that's performed.
Didn't we also go over that with Merchants of Venice?
No,
Wait,
'cause
no,
I
no.
didn't read Merchants and Venice in class.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Doxing my classmate on the hentai podcast. Yeah, this is the scene where Daestra was talking about with baseball bats being used not for baseball.
Yeah.
Also, he said he just noticed, Daestra said the hearts in the eyes whenever someone climaxes. Yep, he has that art style.
Mm-hmm. Not for this character in this situation though.
But I
She kind of
think
has like chameleon eyes.
it only happens when they actually like it.
Yes.
Which is nice to know when they're enjoying it and when they're not.
They've stopped.
But are
There's a
wouldn't
hentai
that
that
make
makes a
it
joke
pictures,
about that. That it's not rape. She has hearts in her eyes.
They stopped drinking, smoking, and huffing.
Oh.
If the bats are wooden though, then
No, the dildo is supposed to say death, I think, and it's kind of if you look at the girl's nails and the panel where she throws it, her nails say death.
Yeah.
Oh, what?
There's a lot of little details in his work.
That's.
I noticed it.
Well, she actually has a DEATH on her hand, but then I think they misspell it over here.
Because it has an S.
These
Dash.
nuts.
This is like this.
It's trying to spell Daestra.
Daestra confirmed for Smash.
Darryl, how's it going?
Oh, my apologies. Darryl, if you thought it was supposed to be on the 5th, but yes, it is today.
As you can see, since we're doing it.
Because the 5th is Chinese New Year and we're going to do something for them.
Oh yeah, we're gonna play Kindred of the East for Chinese New Year. Chaz now has to run it now that we said it.
I can make it happen.
We're all going to be
Chess.
hopping vampires.
As you said that, it looked like you were crumbling inside.
I have very little time and not a lot of time to do it.
It's a one shot.
Yeah, what do you think about the whole idea of in this story? It seems like the corruption goes all the way to the teachers and seems to stem down from there.
I have to wonder what the point of it is.
Can we
I think the
Can
school
we
has a
connect
problem.
it with the next one? Because it has the same kind of also one of the teachers punishes her by, raping her.
Yeah,
Too.
just to give like a brief summary, the next chapter in this collection is called Class Rep Genesis, and it's the prequel story to tell how the class rep became the class rep.
Honestly, the way I interpreted that, and you're welcome to disagree, I'm sure everyone will because I always tend to go dark with my stuff. But
Unnecessarily.
a lot of times in all girls' schools and stuff, or women's prisons or stuff, any kind of male authority figure ends up abusing it and sexually takes advantage of their wards. So that unfortunately did not seem terribly out of the ordinary to me. I just assumed it was another instance of that happening.
Yeah. Well, I didn't fully, because in the first one, it's also another teacher that's taking advantage of them. So I was just kind of like, I think the teachers just take advantage of them, all of them.
But again, I have to wonder to what end.
Yeah.
Because, I can understand if the school was a very, high maintenance and they're getting a lot of money. That I would understand. But with this one, it's like they're all delinquents. Like, what purpose does it serve to make?
Well, it seems like the teachers made them all delinquents.
Yeah.
Like they're planning to make them that way. And it kind of just seems like she's just using them for sex slaves.
And not even like selling them. It's like,
For yourself.
yeah, that's just selfish.
Make some money off for help
Yeah, it's like
yourself
if you're gonna make them all delinquents, at least try to make some money off them. This is just, I don't understand.
I guess
There is no point of view that
she
can
just
see.
doesn't have good money management skills.
Yeah.
Not taking initiative.
Yeah, seriously. You know what?
They didn't take finance classes?
Did they?
Well, funnily enough, nowadays the Yakuza actually makes you take a test in order to join. And allegedly part of it is a financial understanding.
Shit makes
Yeah.
it happen.
The Yakuza doesn't fuck around anymore. They're like, hey, we can't just let delinquents in. This isn't the 80s or 90s anymore. Phone reference, I was there for Yusuf's stream when he was playing Yakuza 0 the other day.
Oh, awesome.
So now that we're also talking about the second one,
Community.
you guys don't just support the big people.
Oh yeah, who said that? The Malkavian? Yeah, I was. We show up to other people's streams to talk sometimes.
I wanted to point out, and it's on page 81, Josh. You can't see them.
No, they're actually in the corner.
Oh, you can.
Yeah, you can see them. It's kind of small, but it's as big as it's gonna get on this.
Oh, well, it was on
screen.
the PDF page 81.
I think that's 1 or 2 pages behind.
Okay, so
Right here or further.
it's when they grow the
Right here.
dicks. Yeah, so they grow dicks, and then it's like it's mayhem. And are the penises causing these, like hearts of evil? Because at one point, they say they lost. Okay, at one point on page 94, they say they lost their hearts of evil and their dicks. So it's like, are those correlated, or is there a correlation or a causation? Like, what is happening?
We kind of talked about this when we did the episode about the Futanari tag, where it seems that when the Futanari tag, it seems when a girl grows a penis, sometimes they tend to exhibit exaggerated masculine traits, and sometimes it's the more negative aspects, or what you could consider more negative aspects of masculinity, such as like forcing yourself sexually on other people or not being able to control your sexual libido.
So when everybody has a penis, it's mayhem. It's insanity.
That is the.
In the magical realism world of hentai, it seems so.
Just
Basically,
you get a penis, you go just
the
run
world
rampant.
needs women to function.
No, it's
With
no, it's
vaginas.
because, no, it's because you can't handle a penis. It's okay. We'll take on the burden.
We're gonna do
Because
something.
clearly,
I think if anything, the men cannot handle vaginas.
So it's like a fucking demon that we have imprisoned.
we have to seal away our dark powers because we seen what happens when the women get it.
Daestra wants to know what he's doing with his life.
Also, I'm a little uncomfortable with the depiction of these.
Children getting penises?
Yeah,
Yeah, I can't do it.
they're a little too young.
I really like the scene where that
Shower?
happens next. Yeah, where the previous class rep takes out the teacher who's sexually abusing her. And then she's like, there was semen everywhere, and not a
Shitty.
single
Yeah,
drop
not
fell on
funny.
her.
I love that line.
Semen finish.
And then she's getting it all over herself, too.
She's so perfect.
Also, that's one of the only times I think I've ever seen... Well, not one of the only times, but this is one of the few times where I see prostate stimulation in a hentai manga.
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't even.
She stimulates his prostate, and that's what makes him
The-
ejaculate everywhere.
manual override.
Is that what you call it when you use it in wrestling?
Just like it's like I'm losing. Ah! And then he nuts, and then he just gets tired.
Like nap time. And I like the little pose though. That's like, yeah, I did it.
It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
She looks magical.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
It's a magical girl.
It's very much in that the genre it's parodying, like the delinquent manga. There's always a super strong character who seems to be able to beat everyone.
I thought it was really cool that it's like a line of women that have been protecting, and they all have braids.
It's a secret order dedicated to the protection of everyone else.
But they're passing this power, so it's like every time it passes, it's combined with the
That's all
last
for one.
person.
The penis gets stronger.
Every time you pass it down.
A
It's
symbol
all
of
for
hope.
one with penises.
Because we both came out
No.
at the same time. That's great.
This entire series shows us that penises are much more than just meat
Penises.
sticks.
You mean the whole collection of Gesundheit's work?
Cream-filled meat sticks.
Cream-filled meat sticks.
Oh, I
They're
didn't
more-
like saying that.
Is that what you have a Dunkin' Donuts?
They're more than just Bavarian pastries. Yeah, I definitely think this is kind of a shonen parody, Daestra. I hope to see you in the next Jump. Well, you can always submit it to the. I think Jump magazine occasionally has open submissions.
Do they?
Yeah, I believe so. I think it's called Jumpstart.
Oh, I think, because I remember there was that. You guys know I'm a reformed weeaboo. There was a time when I was actually pursuing writing for manga and stuff, and as far as I know, Jump and Shueisha they only take Japanese language submissions. Wow, that was completely non sequitur of anything. I apologize, but
That's
it just
okay.
brought me back to my. Well, no, Tokyo Pop.
Yeah.
Does Tokyo Pop still exist?
Oh no, they went
I
bankrupt.
think. Oh, I thought they did.
Tokyo Pop used to take OEL submissions. But no, sounds like you're fucked.
Yeah,
Amazon Kindle.
There you go.
This is the web, not the web novels. What are they called?
Webtoons.
Yeah.
Adam, you're more than garbage. You don't have to make webtoons.
I haven't actually seen anything. Yeah, so.
Oh.
I actually do like the whole training montage. Gesundheit seems to be pretty good at drawing muscles on women.
Yeah, right.
They're fairly realistic outside
Also,
of Giganto.
at drawing realistic boobs, because that boobs hang like that when you're doing shit like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
So, it's great.
You're using those women that you have in your basement
Oh.
for reference.
Yeah, how do you think he does it so well? He draws with passion.
Oh, you remember the ending thing, right?
Yeah, the whole class rep story kind of builds up to the climax, right, with the very typical delinquent kind of showdown. I think it's ridiculous I was able to draw that with the sequence of the attack happening, and it just launches her with the cum cannon.
No, the cum cannon. Wait, so this did kind of bother me a little bit.
Mm.
In I don't know much about comics, but I do know this. when you completely flip the layout like that, it's like a giant fuck you to the reader. You're not supposed to do that.
Well, it's supposed to be 2 pages, no?
Also, you're supposed
Yes.
to be masturbating to this.
That's supposed to be 2 pages, but when you print it into one document,
How is it 2 pages?
It's
Like,
it's
like
it's
cut it
not
in
it's
half
not
like
there's
that.
no-
Oh, okay. I gotcha. So that's like a
like
full
when
page
when
spread.
you open
Yes.
the book,
Right.
it's the both of the pages.
Okay, then I rescind my complaint. But yeah, that fucked with me when I was reading it, and then especially because I'm trying to do it on a digital device. So
yeah, you gotta lock the screen in place and then.
I tell you to turn off the rotator.
I hate that.
Did you like this bit right here with the whole idea of the class rep being a generational thing?
Yeah.
That-
I loved it, and the fact that they all have
That
braids.
makes sense.
That was goofy.
genealogy of justice dating back to ancient times.
I loved it. It
Do you
was
think
great.
there's anything significant about the class rep has to have a big braid?
I think it might just be a stereotype. but
No,
I want a prequel of this.
I'm assuming. See,
A prequel of the prequel.
It's
No,
it's
I want class rep in ancient Greece. I want class rep in like fucking Sengoku Japan.
Well, see, because the braid is a symbol, and that's why the
It's
Japanese
their powers braided together,
Well,
combined together.
the Buddhists female Buddhists can actually keep a braid in the back, and so it's just a symbol. Every time there's another one, they added another braid, and so that's why it's that long now. Look how fucking long that thing is.
It makes it even that more just special.
Yeah. This is the only podcast where we will use an understanding of Buddhism to inform our reading of hentai. And I believe it's completely legitimate. Yeah,
Hentai Literature Club is just a magical fucking thing. 9 viewers, but a magical thing.
So,
is there anything else you want to say about this particular series of stories, other than the
I
sick naming
love
of
the
cats?
I love the fact about that every character has a special move and then what it actually is, like jet stream semen or something.
Yeah.
Although
Fallen
Come
angels.
Cannon wins. Congratulations, Josh.
Thank you.
They're very adept in using semen style jutsu.
Yeah, so let's get to
oh,
the.
Daestra said maybe braids are Gesundheit's tag, and so he projects his tag to his MCs.
Well, he did draw himself in as a self-insert, but that's where we'll
Yeah,
get there.
turns out he's a cyborg. Yeah, so who here particularly found the Time Stripper Reiko series interesting?
I did.
Okay, well let's have you two inform the conversation. Would one of you like to summarize it?
Do it or me.
I'll let you do it this time.
Okay. So it's this girl that she wants to be in a beauty contest, I believe, or she wants to win it. So she tries getting like male attention from it. And
She's
like,
the non-entity. She isn't a non-entity.
yeah.
Oh yeah, this is the one story where the protagonist refers to themselves as a not a non-entity.
But yeah, like one day when she's trying to get like other male attention, like this weird devil dude shows up and he's like, "Hey, can I have your cookie that's on your plate?" She's like, "Sure." And he's like, "Cool, let me give you a gift." And he like places a stamp right on her neck. And eventually she finds out she's able to stop time.
As any responsible protagonist.
Yeah.
In a scene very reminiscent of the time Spider-Man first uses his spider sense. The Mary Jane's somebody's about to drop the tray of food.
We're talking about the movie. The movie
Yeah.
doesn't count.
Yeah, and Spider-Man or Peter Parker, Tobey
Tobey
Maguire.
Maguire.
The movie's great. Though.
Yeah, Tobey Maguire catches it all in the tray, and in this case, somebody's about to spill coffee on her.
Mm-hmm.
She stops time on accident, steps out of the way, reactivates it. Go, please go ahead.
No, you're fine. But yeah, then she starts like using it more and more once she realizes that like she's able to do that with the mark that he gave her, and she notices that she doesn't age.
She doesn't need to
And she doesn't need to
sleep,
sleep.
or
Anything really.
Yeah.
use a restroom.
She can just exist.
And then she's just like, "Hey, you know what'd be cool? I'm gonna start fucking all these guys because I can."
You would be cool. Sex.
And then like I think she ends up going to like this pair of dudes, and she goes like, "Oh, I want to fuck with them for a minute." And one of them,
She also rates their penises.
yeah,
Oh yeah, she gives him a score 0 to 100.
yeah, and like she's looking at this one dude who's a little small, and she's like, "Oh, whatever." And then the other dude has like a huge one, and
She
she
fucks him.
ends up like getting addicted to it.
She fucks him for like a week.
A week.
A week.
straight.
And the rule is okay, for some reason penises still work, and when she resumes time, they feel all the pleasure that they would have felt.
In one instant.
Yeah.
Oh, Daestra says that the demon in this one is kind of a parody of Ryuk. I kind of saw it more as like a Faustian entity.
I saw it as
I
Reiko
did
a little
too.
bit, but I wasn't sure. I was like,
Hey, can I have that cookie? Yeah, sure, I guess. Here, I'll give you the power to stop time. Gee, thanks?
This character actually comes up in another story, but in the other story, the person denies giving the demon something, and they're very rude about it, and so he punishes them, and they have to get all these weird sexual punishments. He reuses some of the characters in other stories.
So moral of the story is if somebody asks you for a cookie you're not gonna eat, just give it to them.
Okay, but
And
what
then
if I
don't rape
what if
me.
I am
But
gonna
wear a
eat the
condom
cookie?
though. You have to
Oh,
wear-
And
yeah,
then you
and
just
that
say,
too,
I'm
like,
sorry, I'm gonna
yes.
eat that cookie.
he ends up saying that like, hey, you probably shouldn't, you know, if you choose to screw someone, you probably should not, like, you know, not use a condom.
Are
Like, use
we just
protection.
gonna ignore what Fred and Daestra said?
Oh, I didn't see.
I didn't see it.
Oh,
I'm
you
sorry.
thought I was a thought, but it was really me, Dio. And then Master and Commander said that's like Hollow Man, where he becomes a rapist literally immediately after becoming invisible.
Yeah.
Oh no, I was referring to love to use the power of the world to become a rapist.
Okay. Oh, the world though. Obviously, whenever you say the world, you should always say it with a Japanese pronunciation.
Oh, right there. Go tease.
Yeah, I see it. Anyways, please continue the summary.
Oh yeah, so
I am engaging your first level of Bloom's taxonomy.
after she ends up getting addicted to this guy, like she starts noticing during like her contest performance and everything that, and just like throughout her life, like several times she ends up like not remembering why she has pleasure because she ends up like I think like coming on herself like what how many times like 100
7 times a day.
or 7 times a day. And then she's just like, wait, someone else has this power, and she ends up finding him, but I think they end up stopping time at the same
Yeah,
time.
it took her a while, right?
Yeah.
She's like, huh, you know what?
And we're on to the second part, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, somebody just subscribed. Deborah. No, thank you. I don't know if it's because you're watching this or something else, but we're going to assume it's this.
Yeah, sure love their tabletop content. Oh, they're live. What is this?
Yamate.
I'm gonna take who to stop.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think,
Good. Go ahead and finish it out with the summary.
yeah, I think they end up stopping time at the same time, and they find out who they are, and then I think they end up fucking for like ever, like the
Yeah,
longest time, and then they end up running out of condoms.
they doom the earth because they keep fucking without
Yeah.
condoms,
Yeah.
and then their children grow up really fast and start fucking, and then they have children, and then
And then, like, the pregnancy, what happens, the pregnancy removes the stamp so they can no longer unfreeze time. So
Yeah, they were
they're
both
stuck.
warned to use protection when they had sex, and they run out of condoms when they're having sex while time is stopped. And so she's like, I don't care anymore. We're gonna keep going. And then he shoots his load into her. She gets pregnant. Like her stomach shoots out, and then the baby just comes out right away.
that was like the first time she fucked him. That was like the first time he ever got off, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
'Cause he's just like, there's nothing that did it for me.
Yeah.
And his first time was just like a week of straight ejaculation. He was like, oh! And that was probably like the best thing ever for him. It's like, is this what it feels like every time?
and then it just becomes a big ol' incestuous orgy.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, you gotta slip in that incest tag, right? It's
If you can.
yeah.
If Yusuf is still here, he was worried about reading this one due to the weirdness of the tags in this one. Thankfully, not all of them are there at once. But yeah, something I noticed in the story is like a thematic element that, once again, I say pops up a lot in these stories is there's the idea of like sexual repression, where the girl has like a certain image she has to project. But then when she has the ability to stop time, she's like, I'm going to do whatever I want. I always wanted to walk around campus naked. I can't have sex with people because then they might think my boyfriend is weird, so I'm going to have sex with everyone now.
Yeah, where it's just kind of like when you're repressed for so long, you just tend to go off the chart. Like, if I can't do anything, then I'm just going to do the craziest thing I possibly
Exactly.
can.
I can stop time. I'm doing everything.
Well, she started didn't she start off reading books?
Yeah.
Like nerd.
Well, I actually think the first thing she does is she starts walking around naked.
You know how I know I'm old?
What?
You know the first thing I would do if I could stop time?
Nah.
Fucking take a snap. Yeah,
Yeah.
fucking sleep.
Oh, yeah.
I just like pass the fuck out.
Nap maybe, play some video games afterwards.
I don't know if the video game machine would work.
Well, her cell phone
Start
works.
watching One Piece.
Good point.
Yeah, so.
Start watching One Piece.
Start watching One Piece. I don't know. There would be parameters that have to establish, like, how long does it last? Does it work?
That's what she does, right? The first thing she does is walk around naked, and then the second thing is she starts establishing the parameters. And then that's when she's like, I'm gonna have sex with everyone now. It's better than Gonzalez, which is what she named her dildo.
Which one did you name?
You can tell what her tags are.
Oh, Yusuf said that you have been confirmed, Chaz, as being the laziest true bruja ever.
I would sleep, and I would write, and I think I'm just about good with everything else. Probably edit a few more videos, but yeah. You're not wrong. Just, wow. I wonder if that ever happened canonically. Just, fucking true bruja just went into torpor and didn't want to miss anything. We're good.
People have said that you were a bruja due to the White Wolf controversy video.
Bruja probably fits me pretty well. Bruja or Malkavian, depending on where you want to put me on the spectrum.
Are you sure not Giovanni?
You're Italian.
Yeah, but I've never banged my sister, and I don't intend to.
Yeah, other than the summary,
I
what
don't know
are...
Giovanni's.
But
It gives me a weird fucking look.
So do you all see any connections between these stories and the ones that we've already kind of gone over? Are there... Obviously, yeah.
Yeah, that one.
Rape comes up quite a... In the second story, the guy brings up, you're the one that raped me first. Right?
Yeah, he's just like, it's like, you can't get mad at me, you raped me first. And now, no, I can't do it with anyone else. You ruined me for everyone else. Like a cat's
Oh yeah,
penis.
Daestra brought up that in Groundhog Day, Bill Murray just takes advantage and becomes a doctor overnight.
I mean, it's not overnight. It takes, like, didn't they do, like, the calculations that, because he learned the piano. He did a bunch of things that would have taken somebody a very long time. And so he was probably in there for, like, years in the loop.
You know what I would do? Break into the White House and see if aliens are real.
Supposedly, Jimmy Carter, when he first got elected, vowed to expose what was in the top secret UFO file. And then he did get elected, and he got briefed and everything, and he was like, I'm not saying shit.
and then also,
Do it. I'd do it. I want to know.
I would just, I'd flush all the president's toupees down.
I'd also read all the RPG books sitting on my shelf. That's what, I've got like, fuck, I don't even want to do that math. That would hurt my soul.
I'm gonna jump this here.
No.
A man bun?
Yeah. If you guys haven't already, Google Trump man bun. It'll give you a laugh.
But not Trump's man bun.
Yeah. No.
No, what do you all think is interesting about this character? Because she's the one character who claims to not be a non-entity.
Well, she's a scumbag, and she absolutely exemplifies the Gesundheit writes characters that are not meant to be emphasized with.
And the only reason she
Empathize.
doesn't think she's a non-entity is because she's like a beautiful person.
She's so pretty, and she wants to marry some poor celeb so she can take advantage of him, take his money.
Is it
Her whole-
really scummy though? Like it's lazy. Don't get me wrong, but it's like
I have a hard time believing that you don't think that's really shitty.
I mean, it's shitty from my point of view, but that's because I feel like everybody should have worth. If you're worthless, we should kill you. But that's why I'm not the president.
But you don't have any problem with marrying somebody just for their money and then divorcing them and taking their money.
You're also.
I
not
mean,
president
divorcing
of the
them, no.
American-
But if they die,
The one thing, like, whenever it was like 3 in the morning, I started looking at the stairs. Like, wait, is that a penis? There's like this black and white.
Is it a
like,
penis?
The black and white sensor bar looked like that. I'm like, wait. I'm like, what is this?
I know what you're talking about. You're a fucking weeb, but it's funny.
but yeah, it's one of those things where it's just like, how mad can I really be if somebody's just trying to not live a very hard life? I get that. Again, they're just lazy.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of women that think that way.
I also thought that the insignia he puts on kind of looks like the one from Smash Brothers.
That's what happens when you pause.
So, or is that just her final smash?
I did wonder if there's
She
any...
pauses time and fucks everyone on screen. instant 69%.
Daestra says he thinks raping hundreds of people and making them pop in front of everyone is scummy.
Yeah, she leaves him there. And then she doesn't even... That first guy...
Yeah, but that's scummy in relation to... But how scummy is it in relation to, like, everyone else in this fucking... And all these works?
Well, she's raping hundreds of people, so pretty scummy, I think.
But it's not unrealistically scummy in this universe. It's just like, oh, I can see how somebody would do that.
Funnily enough, if you look at the name of her university, it's the Shoshu University. And in the Gesundheit self-insert story, he calls and gets a university professor fired at Shoshu University.
I didn't notice that.
So in a way, it's almost implied that these stories are all connected somehow.
Josh, how many times did you read this?
3.
Okay. And you caught that? Well,
Mm-hmm. You've seen me take notes.
I have.
How do you, my dude? You are the platonic ideal of what I want to be when I grow up. How do you have time for this shit? You work a full-time job. You're gonna go back to school. You constantly are always on top of this. You're constantly finding stuff for the RPG Imaginarium. Do you sleep?
Yeah.
That's a sincere question. How do you have time for this? I go to work, I come home, and I don't have time for dick.
No, you just kind of make it work.
He doesn't at work. It's
Oh, yeah.
not him.
But
He's
I
like,
do...
he's like, oh, we didn't at work.
Show me your neck.
What have you been doing?
Oh, there's another Naruto reference, maybe?
Wait, what now?
Naruto reference?
Oh, he made a Naruto reference.
Well, this one, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. They couldn't see it.
I think I messed up Fred on watching Game Theory.
No.
Because like he's just like, that's just a theory, and Fred's like, God damn you. It's like, I don't even watch that shit, and I can hear him say that. Because I watched it like I'm on Skype before, and you can hear it.
When exactly did Matt Pat become like hated in the YouTube community?
I don't know.
Like a year or two ago?
Like I remember there was a time when he was just like kind of whatever, and then he was popular, and now all of a sudden everybody just thinks he sucks.
I mean, Fred just doesn't like the way he talks. So.
I don't really have any opinions about him one way or the other.
I just kind of got bored with his
I'm
content.
fine
I don't
with
think
his
he's a bad person.
videos. I think his videos can be interesting.
I'm sure he's a nice person.
To me, I stopped watching his videos partially because they, like I said, they became more middle school orientated,
Right.
and
Yeah.
also because I felt like his theories got weaker.
I did think some of the Five Nights at Freddy's videos were interesting, but that's from the sheer volume of the fact that you know he put more effort into this than Scott Cawthon, the guy who created the series, actually did. And I'm fairly certain Scott Cawthon was piggybacking off of what Matt Pat did.
So, Chaz, you and I both brought up that the demon in the story kind of seems like a Faustian entity.
Oh yeah,
What
came
kind of
in.
connection do you see? Because at the end of the story, it's almost like it's like a fable at the end where it's like I told you so kind of thing.
I knew from the minute, like before I even realized that this guy was full on devil, I was like, this guy's gonna fuck him up somehow. And I don't even mean that literally. And then he's like, use protection, like here's a gift. It's like, okay, yeah, she is gonna get some kind of comeuppance. Now, I don't know necessarily if the guy did anything to deserve that, because he seems just kind of like a, hikikomori nerd. But yeah, this is definitely like retribution for her.
He didn't hold back his dark power.
Oh yeah, he uses it on a lot of women when he does get it.
Yeah, true. But I think he did that because he was looking for her.
Yeah.
Well, he was just.
I'm not sure if that makes it okay.
He was just
We're not
looking-
having that.
He was just looking to get off again, but he couldn't unless it was her. I don't know what or how.
That's
Salute.
You. Are we technically part of gaming YouTube?
No.
Like, I'm down with being the Nosferatu king, but I just,
We run the Warrens beneath Los Angeles. Come to the Mexican graveyards. They're more festive.
They have candy.
And fruit.
And delicious pan dulces.
With flowers.
Can we talk about the condom box on page 138?
Yeah, the one with
Oh,
the
yeah,
America.
the American flag one.
Oh, yeah!
America.
Big American penises.
When that popped up,
Yeah, it's bad.
It's
Shit.
when that popped up, I like to imagine the Sting from Team America.
There we go.
America, fuck yeah.
the American size, and it fucking looks like he has a box of ammunition.
No.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, to be fair, everything in this country comes in ammo box.
I was gonna say some condom company should absolutely make condoms in a bullet casing.
I bet someone.
Oh, for a second I thought that said fucking Texas.
Fucking Texas.
I think it says
Ecstasy,
yeah,
fucking
fucking
ecstasy.
I can't see. Oh, what page is it?
Right next to the. Oh, it's page
And the guy's face when he inserts it just.
138.
138. Okay.
I think his penis is so big that he said his first girlfriend kind of like went,
Ran
"Oh
away from
shit,
it.
that's not." I mean,
that's not gonna fit.
that would hurt.
Yeah.
I'd run away too.
But would you run away enough to be like to traumatize the dude?
No, I'd be nice about it. Just be like, you know what? I don't think it's gonna fit.
What did you all think about the little love meter that happens?
Oh, yeah.
That really loves being praised, and then it kind of goes down.
And then when it says
There's probably some extra moron who's making tactical condoms that comes with a box of 350 cents.
There's a market for it. I'm sure there is.
she gives in because apparently she's weak to having her maternal instincts appealed to.
I didn't get that either.
Like he's crying and acting pathetic, basically.
Yeah, but what makes you want to fuck that?
I mean,
if it's touching her maternal instincts.
I mean, so
You see
going
what-
back to that incest techno.
See, like,
I think it's more. I think it's just you want
Laser
to protect this thing, but you know it's not your actual kid, so it's okay. You can fuck it.
it's the Carlo Martino.
It's the Carlo Martino way.
The Carlo Martino method.
It worked.
Start
It
crying.
also doomed the earth, but it worked.
What do you all think about the comeuppance that comes at the end, where it's basically the world is doomed to overpopulation due to these people just
Due to incest.
due to their non-stop libido and
And he's just kind of like,
I-
oh, we have a pickle.
Yeah, and she's just like, well, damn.
Stop, won't stop.
Yeah.
anyways,
I
we've been
mean,
how
it
long have we
sucks.
been going on for?
A bit.
About 2 hours.
About 2 hours. Oh, this one's running a little long. Let's get to my favorite story.
Yay!
A day in the life of an ero-manga artist. This is
one's
my
so
That one
yeah.
was a good one.
This is my favorite one. This is the one I insisted everybody read if you couldn't read the whole thing. Because to me, this is like the thesis of the whole thing. And to summarize it, this is a metafictional self-referential text where it starts off with the artist himself, Gesundheit.
Could you define metafictional?
Yeah, metafictional is basically when the text kind of acknowledges itself as a text, and a lot of time it involves things like parody.
Gotcha.
Like breaking down the fourth wall, kind of.
Yeah. And so in Japan, there's actually a genre in ero-manga and ero-anime about people who make ero-manga and ero-anime. So not only is this like a parody of the author making fun of his own work, not necessarily making fun of it, but kind of tearing it apart, he's also kind of making fun of the whole, or parodying the genre about ero-manga and ero people who make ero-manga anime and manga. Yeah, so it starts off with him trying to finish off his latest work, which is the volume you're currently reading if you're reading it. And then it turns out that he's having a hard time focusing because somebody recently sent a letter to him telling him about how ero-manga is for degenerates, that it ruins society, it makes people more violent. And so that goes to him finding the journalist who allegedly published this article and brainwashing him using hentai. And it basically points out that ero-manga artists seem to have like this massive influence over the world, that they can get university professors fired because they publish something that makes ero-manga look bad, and that they can get people murdered and stuff like that, and they have ninjas working for them. And he also kind of makes fun of like the about the work culture behind it, where he literally has his interns chained to a desk, forcing them to finish like the layouts and the backgrounds and stuff like that. And to me, the whole point of this text, at least this story in particular, seems to be making fun of the actual influence of ero-manga on the world and on people and what people think about it. And there's one line in particular, let me find the page it's on, where he's trying to find another person to work and as one of his artists, and he has a girl there, and the girl, he very clearly, you can actually see their art samples, and it's the girl who has the worst one, but it's the cutest one. And he's like, you don't have what it takes to work here, but I'm willing to foster your talent. and he's like, "How old are you?" And she's about to say, "I'm one something," so 17.
Because
18.
in Japan, the
Yeah.
tens place comes first. So
Yeah.
she's about to say Jew, and he just cuts her off.
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, you're 21," and she's like, "Yeah, exactly. Then there's no problem at all." No. Yeah, so he's saying, "How old are you?" And give me an honest answer, because these days it seems that even fictional people like you have human rights. That's my favorite line in this whole collection.
That was pretty fucking
Yeah.
funny.
Because there's a serious issue that people have that you see on the internet, especially when it comes to like lolicon related content, where people get seriously angry because they're like, "You're a pedophile, you're a pervert." Obviously, that's not my thing. That's not a lot of people's thing. I understand if that kind of artwork is offensive to you.
But Shadman is such a nice person.
But
I
at the
bet
same
Shadman actually is pretty cool.
But at the same time, these are drawings and they're not real people. And this is like a serious debate that's kind of going on within like the world of erotic art. Because I think in Canada, somebody got arrested for having lolicon hentai on their computer.
So I wrote a little bit about that.
Yeah,
Do
go
you
ahead.
want to finish or?
No, but I'm what I wanted to bring up is I think around 2010 in Japan, in Tokyo specifically, there was a serious push to try to ban work that was considered dangerous to the fictional characters, and that might encourage antisocial behavior, which is what the letter that Gesundheit gets sent talks about. So there was actually a real thing where basically the government was trying to censor erotic artwork in Tokyo, and part of the reasoning that they used was basically to protect people that weren't real.
Wow.
And this is a real argument that people have where they're like, you can't, like, for example, we're talking about, in this work there's a lot of rape depiction, right? It's understandable that rape is a serious thing that happens and that if you don't like what's happening in this volume, but at the same time, it's not happening to real people. But some people...
If you don't like it, you
yeah,
don't have to read
yeah.
it kind of situation.
Would you like to go ahead and say what you wanted to say?
Well, the way I saw it was kind of like, it reminded me of when we, would get off track talking about other tags that we weren't supposed to be talking about in the podcast. Chas, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. So,
Wait, was that referring to me
to
specifically?
both of us. I thought
Okay.
I thought
I'm not
we
saying
did a
I
lot.
don't. I felt like that was a particularly pointed
No,
comment.
like, because I remember at one point we were both kind of like, okay, we're going to try to focus on what we're
Right,
supposed to
right.
be focusing on.
And Melinda was like, "Nah, y'all perverts.
Yeah.
You're all going to Hindu hell."
So it reminded me of that, and the way that I see it, the reason why it bothers me and I don't want to read that is because not so much of the rights of this fictional person. It's more of, if you're reading this kind of thing, it's where you're kind of putting yourself in the situation, or it's something that you're trying to use to get off. So it's something you like.
I think it's also, when we consume fiction, just as a natural tendency, we empathize with the characters.
Yeah, that too.
So I think in a matter of speaking, like, we all know it's not real, but at the same time, when you empathize with the character, when you suspend disbelief, when you meet the work on its terms, in a sense, it sort of becomes real, and the idea of this God character, i.e. the composer of the work, putting this person through those things that you are empathizing with.
I mean,
seems a
we
little
give
sick.
feelings to like inanimate objects, so it's only natural for us to go, oh, this character, like, it hurts.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then also, like, to me, this is something people are reading because they like, and this is their tag and stuff, and I just find it hard to know where the line is drawn from reading something like this and acting upon it in real life scenarios.
Like, I'll tell you one thing that's tangentially related. Melinda and I were watching Psychopaths recently, which Psychopaths is a really good anime. It's got a lot of subtext about mental illness and the way society judges people with mental illness, and not everybody who's mentally ill is evil. Not everyone who's evil is mentally ill. There's a lot of really interesting arguments it brings up. And there's one part where I can't spoil it too much, but one of the main character's friends dies specifically because the main character refused to do something, and I got pissed at the main character. Like, what a fucking useless protagonist!
she didn't want, like, I understand.
No,
She didn't wanna-
no spoilers, no spoilers. We both know what we're talking about.
I'm not spoiling anything, but
But it's like that. That legitimately pissed me off for a good 30 minutes, and we know it's not happening to people. We know it's not
But
real.
it's because you're inserting yourself into that world.
I don't think I'm inserting myself.
Well, by
into the world,
consuming it.
I'm empathizing with
Yeah.
his character. I am accepting the trials and the tribulations this character is going through as having narrative weight, and because I care about the narrative, it now has emotional weight.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at the same time, I completely understand, the other side of the argument too. It's not real, and if you wanna beat your meat to this stuff, fucking go ahead. I don't care what you do with your dick. But at the same time, the idea that somebody would want to, it's a little weird, and the idea that again,
it's not something I'm comfortable thinking about.
right, and the idea that there's this all-powerful God character that can control these, and again, I'm talking about the artist, the writer, the composer of the work, that can control these things, and it occurs to him to do that. That's a little weird.
It's like I said, I find it hard to visualize where the line
yes,
is
she did,
drawn.
Yusuf, and yes, she does.
Wait, what?
Yes, if you change your shirt. Sorry, continue, honey. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
yes,
no.
I did, Yusuf. I changed my shirt because...
I really don't mean to cut you off as much as I do. I
No,
apologize.
you're fine. But yeah, it's just where I find it hard, trying to get where the line is drawn from real life scenarios and reading or drawings.
It's just like I said, I think because we empathize with the character, it's very easy for us to feel bad for characters.
That's what I think is interesting about the fact that Gesundheit uses parody and metafiction.
Absolutely.
Because when you recognize something's a parody, or if something's not a parody but like satire, like say something like the famous satire people usually bring up is A Modest Proposal by Jonathan Swift, where he's saying, hey, if we Irish people are starving, why don't we just eat babies? To me, when you use parody or satire or metafiction, you kind of acknowledge that this is a text. And in almost every story, to me, it's very clear that these are parodies. And to me, that's why it's easier to kind of accept the kind of absurd situations that happen.
And we can even tie this back to the earlier one. We were talking about the one with the chick with the mop in her ass.
Yes.
It's like he takes it to this ludicrous extremes, to the point where no matter who you are, you have to face that this is ludicrous, and that makes it easier to digest. So on the one hand, like, I have no problem with what Gesundheit did. It caught me a little off guard the first time I saw, holy shit, she's got a mop in her ass. This woman was brutally raped. But then after I was like, okay, you know what? He's just, this is just, we're going with
But she
this.
cleaned up her act?
God damn it. It's not that actually so weird because if you're watching up anime, people get things shoved up their butt all the time.
Well, yeah, even the
In real life,
the-
people get things shoved up their butts.
Okay, yeah, that's true, but we're not talking about the
Toy cars or...
toy lamps getting shoved up asses, but like
drugs.
in anime, they're just be like, aha, this person was defeated and they got something shoved up their butt.
Yeah.
It happens.
It's like putting the flag, yeah.
Yeah,
Like we won.
flag, a leak, things get shoved up butts in anime.
Well, even like the Japanese, like I guess I don't know if it's a game though, but like
Oh,
they
yeah, it's a game that
Poncho.
kids do. It's a prank.
yeah.
Yeah,
Poncho.
that kid just go around sticking their fingers up her butt. Scary.
What game were you guys playing where one of the finishing moves was the guy with the bag over his head performing a concho?
Guilty
know.
Gear.
There we go. With the what's his name? The big linky guy?
Faust.
Faust, and he just finishing move.
Oh.
Hmm?
Never mind. Yeah, yeah.
What are you drinking?
Oh, she was asking Yusuf because Yusuf went to get another beer.
Oh.
Like, on the one hand, I think like laws like that are completely absurd.
Yeah.
Because they are fictional characters, and they should be understood.
And there's no actual, as they kind of joke about in the story, where he says there's no basis for the idea that reading hentai is going to make you not a social pariah, but a social hazard.
And then that's exactly what happens.
Yeah. He makes fun of it later because he absolutely enforces that. He makes that happen later on.
I wonder if that's an actual letter he received, though.
No.
Like, I want to talk to this guy.
I wouldn't
Because
doubt it.
there was a lot of I noticed a lot in this, that there was a lot of those left wing SJW feminists. It's like, there's crazies on both sides of the political spectrum. There absolutely is, and there are absolutely leftist feminists that want to castrate all dudes. But that's a very point something minority, and I don't know what they're like in Japan. But I know at least here everybody loves porn. Nobody's
But it's
trying to
it's
take
also-
away the porn.
It's a very vocal
not true.
minority.
Okay, again, I like I said, there's crazy on both sides, but for the most part, people love porn.
I liked it. on page 165 of the PDF. I don't know what page.
Wait, can I point out one thing in the beginning that I loved so much, and it's got nothing to do with the actual text. But I love when it, because when it introduces him, he's wearing the gas mask, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it says ero-manga artist Gesundheit, German.
Yeah.
And the implication is, oh, that explains the gas mask. And then later on, when he's slamming the new intern, he's got the fucking cyborg arms. It's like, oh wow, guess he's really German.
German engineering is the best in the world.
So what page do you want to go to?
Oh shit, I lost it. Hold on. 165.
As we're getting to page 165, I did want to bring up, I was trying to find articles that talks about the connection between people engaging in sexual fantasies in media, such as rape fantasies or pedophilic fantasies, and if they actually perform that in real life. Currently, it's unknown whether there is an actual tangible connection, whether engaging with that kind of media will make you want to enact that scenario in real life.
Right. I think
Right now, it's a complete. It's not like a certainty that you can absolutely say that's going to happen.
The data is inconclusive.
Yes.
No masturbation.
I do like that because I like this scene right here where he's kind of making fun of the stereotypical mangaka lifestyle. I also think it's funny the little attention he draws to detail to the boobs where they fold in at the table, where they're pressed against it.
Oh yeah.
What an artist!
I like the way he draws boobs.
He draws them realistically.
Yeah.
Not to the
he's
page
got
I
them
wanna get.
chained down there.
I'll tell you when you get there. Oh, right. No, go back. Okay. So it's where he's trying to decide.
Oh, on the cover, he
On the
forgot
cover.
to submit on time.
And it's like Futanari isn't popular, not enough impact, good but boobs are a bit too small, and nope. I just thought it was really funny.
He actually used the Doraemon fucking art
Art
style.
style. I thought it was really
Also,
funny.
there's that little bit of vanilla at the end.
No, with him embracing the girl who,
Yeah.
like I said, once again, repressed sexual desire with his secretary. She wants to have sex with him, but he's too professional.
But he's just
Yeah,
like,
I love at the
"Oh,
end where
good
he's
for
like,
the sales."
he's like, this will sell so well.
Also, it's interesting that that canonically that is Gesundheit's own jizz leaking out of that woman on the cover of his book.
Oh, I didn't even think
But then, like, go back one, or go back to the other one, like the other page, the one before, I think, yeah. Like the guy's facing on the one, not this one, the one before, I think, yeah. Where is it?
I think you went too far back.
The
Smeagol-looking reporter.
You're
is he one of these?
Oh, to read through this one, when he tells him, like, not only am I gonna make you read my hentai manga, I'm gonna make you read all the antisocial ones. That the atomic explosion, that's one of the opening panels to the next story in the book.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Mm.
About that one.
The freaking Fist of the North Star parody.
Yeah.
So, do you know what page you were looking for, Adam?
I'm looking for here.
Oh. Yeah, this is the reason why I really want you guys to read this. 'Cause to me, this is one of the most interesting hentai texts I've ever read.
Oh, I absolutely agree.
Yeah, because not only is he making like a parody of the whole ero-manga about people who make ero-manga, but he's also actually saying something about real things that happen and the idea of the influence that it has on people. Yeah, so it's interesting the way parody works, right? Because he's kind of making fun of the idea that hentai or ero-manga or ero-anime is going to make you some sort of crazy rapist kind of thing. And then it gets vanilla at the end, right? But then the final panel is the murder actually happening on the TV.
Oh yeah. Just like, oh no.
Oh well.
Well, there was that page in the corner, the two guys holding the lady up.
Well,
They have some spin words, right?
I think they're just placeholders for the actual.
By the way, I love
Whatever
keep
they
that pose and all do peace signs.
I also think it's funny because he does bring up like actual things that happen for an artist where he's like, oh shit, I forgot to submit the cover on time and stuff like that. Or are you comparing it to the actual cover?
Yeah.
They're just.
I wanted to see if they did the peace signs in the actual cover as well, and they do.
He tells them to do the. Well, they're not doing it right there because he's telling him to do it in the next panel. But then on the actual cover they're doing the peace signs.
And she's trying to.
He also draws her slightly differently. He gave her a little side braid.
She has
No,
it.
yeah,
Oh, she does? Oh, okay.
Because he likes his braids.
It might be his tag.
Gesundheit, if you're watching this or braids one of
He's
your
actually
tags-
very wholesome.
Daestra wants to know if page 160 is a Clockwork Orange reference.
I absolutely noticed that, and I think it is.
Which one is that?
The one where he has the guy tied down and he has the
Okay.
things
Oh, yeah.
holding his eyes open.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I thought about that too. But instead of watching war.
He makes him watch clips of war and rape and stuff like that.
While
Like all the
listening to-
things that Alex has committed. Well, not all the things he's committed, but the kind
Just
of
like
violent
horrible,
activities.
violent.
And then it gets bad when he starts playing, Mozart?
Yeah.
Or is it Beethoven? I can't remember.
It's something classical.
You're like, don't play him, how dare you play him, he's done nothing. But yeah, this is my favorite one. Let's get to the last one, which is the really long one. The Legend of the Early Century Savior Hokuto no Genko. Who would like to briefly summarize this one?
There's a woman in the post-apocalypse, and
Her name is Mikano Kitadono.
And her name, she's looking for supplies, as many post-apocalyptic survivors do, and also she has very powerful rape fantasies. So she comes across these two ruffians, and she's like, "Oh, hey, if they take me back to their hideout, I'll get food and water, and I'll get raped." So
Win-win-win.
Best of both worlds.
they capture her and they take her in her van and they're raping her, and she eventually tires them both out. She's like, well, fuck, now I gotta look for food again. So she makes her way to this laboratory and I guess accidentally awakens somebody in a cloning vat. She eventually manages to find the hideout of the guys, but she's a second too late because the clone arrives just before she does and fucks everybody.
One of them through the chest.
T-1000.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, he
then,
looks like a Terminator when he has the flesh removed.
Eventually, the two of them meet. Coitus ensues, and she finally found somebody that can satisfy her wanton lust for rape,
Yeah, but not only that, he's a cute boy.
which is her type.
Yeah, she prefers cute boys. However, the kind of people who usually fulfill her rape fantasies are not cute boys. So this is kind of interesting because this text is informed by the last one, if you have a sharp eye, in the fact that Gesundheit himself says this is one of the most antisocial things he's written. But do you think that's more of just a joke, or do you see some sort of connection there, or in relation to the previous works we've looked at?
I think it's just
the whole
coming
atomic bombing
soon
thing
or
is-
I'm sorry, go ahead.
The whole atomic bombing thing is a little much.
I thought it was because she actually liked being raped.
That too, but I don't know. I thought it was just like a little nod, one of Gesundheit's signature attention to details. And like, oh look, here's my new thing that's next. And if you have a sharp eye, you'll notice. But I honestly didn't read too much into that because he didn't just call this antisocial. He called most of it. And I think I did notice that in some of the other panels with that dude, I was pretty damn sure there were some panels from some of the other work
I think there
in the
are.
Tankobon. So yeah. So he was basically just poking fun at his own work in this particular Tankobon. I don't think he was saying necessarily anything about this text in particular. That's me.
I do think her liking rape is a bit much.
Well, I mean, there are people with rape fantasies in there,
Oh, yeah.
but often,
It's an extreme to actually take your rape fantasy
Yeah.
by trying
You
to
don't
get yourself
actually want to
raped.
get raped.
yeah.
Yeah, you usually just want to play out the fantasy.
Hey.
Because
You don't have
often
that?
when you actually play it out, you end up thinking, oh, this was, if you go too far, it's like, oh, this was too real and I didn't actually like it. Well,
Right.
that's what when I've read people talking about it, that's what I've seen most commonly.
Fred says, love to use the post-apocalypse to play out my psychosexual hangups.
And what else is this post-apocalypse for?
And then Daestra says familiar Fisto Master, and then Fred says, here's my new thing where I can draw some reprehensible shit and do a wry look into the camera so I can say it's all jokes.
Also, a braid.
Yeah, no, that's
No.
Yeah.
I also saw another possible reference with the cute boy at the end, where it's kind of like a monster. He's just fucking everybody, and then finds her, they fuck, everything's great, hearts in their eyes. And I, connected it to Frankenstein's monster, where really all he wanted was love.
In the form of a penis. It all connects.
I was gonna say Frankenstein's German. Like, no, the story just takes place in Germany.
Am I going
Written
to
by-
wear this shirt to casual Friday? Sure.
Well, Xavier, as a fellow fan of Hokuto Shinken and the Fist of the North Star, what did you think of this parody?
I feel like more guys should have exploded.
He got a dick through his chest. Like something exploded.
It's hard.
Ultra nut. But it would have been pretty interesting to see like
Semen eruption just blow somebody.
yeah, it's just kind of like
The cum.
You wanted one of the one of the classic Fist of the North Star money shots.
Nani?
Nani?
You have already come.
You've already been raped.
Oh my word.
Well, my one jizz.
No, what braids are so aesthetic. I'm just, look at how nice her hair looks with the braid.
Yeah, she didn't have a braid at the beginning.
That's because now it's post-apocalyptic, Josh.
The braid is
Duh!
You can't just maintain your hair all the time.
I was gonna say, historically speaking, though, a lot of warrior cultures that had long hair use braids to keep the braid out of their face, or to keep their hair out of their face.
Though she drains those guys pretty good.
Right. What do you think? Because that's something that also happens in some of the other stories, where it's like the woman's sexual appetite is completely able to defeat men.
No, I just thought it was kind of funny where she wants to be raped, so you're right, they're raping her, but then she's kind of like, this isn't enough, so then she rapes them.
It's
And-
also
and, like-
it's also a reversal of expectation. Not only that, but I think we've talked about in previous work where there's just this cultural stereotype, not even necessarily in Japan. I mean, in humanity, there's a cultural stereotype that women just don't want sex ever.
It also could be like I wasn't finished yet, guys.
I mean, I think as educated individuals, we know there's a difference. Like men are more willing to go whenever the hell they want, but women, when they want it, they want it. You have to set aside a day for that.
Sex Olympics.
Get more stamina, damn it.
Do the rest of you have anything you want to say about this work in particular? Other than that, it's a pretty sweet reference of Fist of the North Star.
Those are all my notes.
Oh, Larkcrafter said the answer to the earlier question of the symphony used in A Clockwork Orange is the Ludwig von Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. Thank you.
Just comes down Terminator style.
Yeah, that's a straight not parody. That's a straight reference of the opening of the Terminator movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one guy's holding his junk. That guy has a fucking hole through his chest.
Well, actually,
Oh, God.
with the direction that his skin is going, implies that the
Fucked him.
well, no. It implies that the penetration came from behind.
Yeah.
So presumably he started out fucking him in the ass, and then eventually he
Wasn't
just blew his
enough.
asshole out. It wasn't tight enough, so he had to create a new hole through his spine.
Yeah.
Fatality.
We were also drinking. Most of us had whiskey and Coke. I had a Crown
I
Royal.
have green apple Captain Morgan, apparently. It looks like Mountain Dew.
Oh yeah.
What do y'all think of that? Look at the little panel at the end. She's kind of holding the decapitated penis of one of the guys.
Is that what she's holding?
Yeah, that's why it's censored.
Wait, what?
That panel at the bottom
Oh
corner.
yeah, I
she's,
remember.
She's
yeah,
like, what happened
it was
here?
like, oh no.
She was
I like how
"Wait."
the penis says
No, it's
skull.
also that's a huge penis.
I wonder if she's gonna
Right.
keep a bunch of them and make them into like a necklace.
Post-apocalypse.
Yeah.
Well, because like there's a penis is only right because it has blood in it, right? Assuming the blood would have come out of that, and we're just like. So that's a flaccid penis.
I really like that book. What book, Fred?
I think Clockwork Orange.
Oh.
I read it last year. It was an enjoyable read.
The scars.
No. Do they form the dipper?
Almost.
They
He's
kinda
got-
do.
He's got 2 extra ones.
Wait, what scars?
From Fist of the North Star, the main character has the scars in the shape of
He's got 7
the
scars.
Big Dipper.
Oh, I thought that was smoke coming from the bullet wound.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
but
is.
it's a reference to,
Oh, okay.
to a manga.
Okay.
Look at that manly face.
That brings up another thing. Gesundheit likes to use a lot of cultural references other than parody.
He's gonna talk about hentai. You know.
Would you-
Why
would
is
you-
it that penis is censored, but there are so many other penises that are uncensored in hentai?
I think it just depends on who the editor is, who.
Yeah, sometimes there's just like blank. Sometimes there's like the line. Sometimes it's mosaic.
It also goes by the rules of Japan and the censorship that they have.
I also really like what Daestra said. We need doujins based on famous literature. Moby Dick, Tale of Two Cities, Mice and Men, Brothers Grimm. Great. Oh my god.
Great Gatsby.
Yes. But okay, Moby Dick. We already know what scene.
You're talking about the scene
Already
in the
know
beginning
what
where
scene. They
the
sleep
brotherly
together.
moment between Ishmael and
They
Queequeg.
sleep together. There's an axe pushing onto his back. We don't know if it was an axe. Maybe it was a penis. I think it'd be great. I'd totally read that.
Oh, this is the exact scene that happens in the when the guy's being forced to see all the hentai and the last story. Oh, I think it's actually that one.
Yeah.
I also do, well, that's the end of the volume, but I also like that it's, I'm assuming that's a character misreading of the main character's name, Hokuto no Genko. And then she's like, that's the wrong reading. So yeah, we've gone through this entire tankobon by Gesundheit. What are your thoughts now after going through it and the ideas we've brought up?
Man is very self-aware.
He's very creative.
Gesundheit's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like it.
He seems like he'd be fun to just hang out with.
So out of the artist directors we've looked at, we've only looked at 3, which are Methonium, Teruaki Murakami, and Gesundheit. Who are some of your favorites so far?
I gotcha.
Or who's your favorite out of the 3?
I still gotta go with Methonium.
Yeah, I think Methonium and then Gesundheit.
I would. Methonium's a close second, but this guy's cool.
I think Gesundheit
Although
is my favorite.
gotta admit, Daily Life of an ero-manga Artist did win me over. So if it wasn't for that, I might lean towards Methonium too. But
So what do you all think of the kind of themes and ideas that we saw develop? Did any of you kind of change how you looked at the stories, or any new perspectives that you have after we went through them?
you know, once I realized that he was going to, like I said, at first it was shocking. That's bullying, but once I realized that this was like an absurdist fucking take on the subject, I was like, okay, yeah. And it helped me, I guess, ease more into his mindset. Now, if this guy was publishing a tankobon with a bunch of different, like, manga artists, I don't know if I'd know what to think. But being exposed to such a wide swath of his work, if indeed this is could be considered a wide swath, I think that definitely helped me sort of, like, ease into what to expect from this guy.
I liked it more than I was expecting. Looking at the tags.
He actually has a parody where he reuses his self-insert from the Daily Life of an ero-manga Artist, where I think the publishing company is like, they fail to get a bunch of submissions for a work about panties, and so he has to do the entire volume by himself, and basically every page of the story is a 2-panel spread of him doing it in the style of a different artist, making fun of the whole idea of like panty fetishization. So he's really I agree that he's self-aware, but I also think he seems to also have like a really good grasp of ero manga and the way people perceive it and the way like they consume and think about it. What did you all think of the element of parody, which is to me like one of the strongest elements in this work that you kind of see through all of them and that you see develop up to the daily life of an ero manga artist?
Well, it's like I said, if I were to write any kind of erotica seriously as a career, I would not be able to take it too seriously. I just couldn't. Maybe after a couple years of doing it, I'd be like, okay, this is normal now. But, you know, he doesn't take himself too seriously. I wouldn't be able to either, and that's his approach to erotica, I suppose.
But in a way, you could say he does take himself seriously, because do you believe that kind of bit where he says that ero manga has to be made with passion?
Definitely.
Like he
A
takes
little
it
bit,
to he takes it to the extreme because he's having sex with somebody while he's saying
He
it.
cares enough about it to be like, there's fucking problems.
And this pays my bills.
I don't know if it does. I mean, it probably makes decent amount of money.
Well, just because somebody doesn't take themselves too seriously doesn't mean they're not serious about what they do. I would say that we are the perfect example of that. You know,
You guys make fun of yourselves in your videos.
Oh yeah, constantly. We're constantly laughing and joking around, but I'm still passionate about RPGs.
Yeah, like you put a shit ton of work into everything.
Oh yeah, we've been going on. Fuck me, this is going to be CavCon's 5th birthday coming up. We have been at this 4.5 years.
Fred says that.
And we still only have 2,300 subs. That's fucking sad. There's fucking Fortnite kids out there with like over 1 million.
We're not gonna do fork knife.
That's fucking sad.
Well, when they could do that though, that's when we get the broaden the horizon.
You can do the fork knife, and they'll just be like, "Wait, who are these nerds?"
like, what do we subscribe to?
What did we subscribe to? A variety channel.
So we just get a bunch of middle schoolers subscribing for the hot chick playing Fortnite. And then bait and switch. Aha! It's us ugly fuckers.
You know, you'd be fine with that, Adam. You'd be fine with middle schoolers.
No. People don't get that joke. That's an inside joke.
I think we explain it in Demon.
I think I'm sure we have. If you don't get the, go watch Demon. Don't report Adam for being a criminal. Unless you find something else out, Adam, your search history.
I use incognito mode so you can't find it.
Anyways, our fans are defending us.
Oh.
If you're feeling too much self-doubt right now, Yusuf went so far as to admit to
more
watching
Demon.
our Star Wars videos.
Oh damn!
Oh my god.
Nobody watched those. That's gonna be
Nobody watched us playing the fucking D&D version of Magic.
Oh yeah.
People didn't watch those.
Oh, fucking, what
Yeah.
was it?
If you all recall correctly, our Star Wars videos are actually some of the most popular for people who aren't subscribed to us.
Well, it's.
You know, I do still have that on my fucking hard drive. I should just get that edited and up.
Wait, what? Star Wars?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Was that the one where Tom dies?
Fred says this writer would definitely be an unbearable shithead, as I imagine most writers are. Daestra says even serious ones aren't really serious depending on perspective. Look up Gilbert Gottfried reads 50 Shades of Grey on YouTube.
Gilbert Gottfried.
LARP Crafter, there definitely will be more Demon the Fallen. I've purchased more books for it. out of
Happy
my own
birthday,
pocket.
Capcom. Daestra says you've got a niche audience though, and with low subs you know your people much more in quality over quantity.
Yeah, that's very true. Like honestly, our community is fucking fantastic. I would definitely say we have one of the best communities on YouTube, bar none.
So, to kind of round up the conversation we'll be having, do you all see any positions that you think the author's taking? Do you, if you can,
He's made them very good.
what sort of issues did we see exploring relating to human sexuality? In this case, psychology, very much in particular, and gender relationships. We already kind of went over the unifying ideas and images that we saw popping up. Are there any final statements you'd like to relate in relation to the questions I just asked?
We know women can't handle penises. Peni? Penus.
You can't lie, Yusuf. You were drinking brandy the other day.
But probably with less dildos. Bob's welcome to come back whenever he wants. He's got an open invitation.
Also, Yusuf said, what we went over tonight, tags I never want to see again. You're going to, if you're going to keep watching us.
Yes, listen to us.
Unsub now.
But don't do that though.
No, yeah. Are there any last thoughts about those kind of relationships that you all want to make before we wrap this up?
Wait, everybody should have a make your own dildo and then like put out their designs.
Oh, I thought you were talking about like when the band Him had dildos of all the members.
Oh no, I was thinking more along the lines of the pictures X was showing me earlier.
Oh.
The like lamp,
The lamp
Yeah,
one.
it's just like how,
the megaphone.
you can make your own dildo. Oh boy,
They look like doorknobs.
a megaphone. Like that's not a dildo.
Clone a Willy.
No.
Yusuf says,
Brandy's a
so Brandy's a
liqueur,
liqueur.
not a liquor.
Not
I
a liquor.
understand. However,
Holy shit, Bob is here.
Bob, who's on?
What?
Yeah,
Oh, hey.
oh, hey Bob.
Good to see you,
Bob.
buddy.
Just tune in to see us talk about dildos and tits.
like my tags are here.
The tags are here. I must investigate. Oh god, it's these CAFCON faggots.
Hashtag Clone Willy.
I thought that must have been somebody must have felt insecure though when you agree to do that as a band. Like somebody has that as the idea, like, hey, why don't for merch we sell dildos of our own penises, and then you see the dildos of everybody else's penis and yours is the smallest one. How do you feel about that? Anyways, yeah, we're gonna start
Well,
wrapping.
no. What happens is we do that, and we're all pretty average, and then Adam.
And it has a slight curve to it.
Oh, Daestra said he'd like to see us look at a Shiwasu no Okina or Mizuruke. Fun fact, I do plan to look at Mizuruke the artist for one of these upcoming episodes.
Hi, Bob. It's always good to see you here, buddy.
Yes,
We love
yes, it is.
You're always invited.
Come over right now.
We saw you the other day when we were all playing Smash, and you were playing?
Was it Odyssey?
Were you playing Super Mario Odyssey on your Nintendo Switch?
We see
You
those
could
things
be
all the
playing
time.
Smash with the boys.
You don't want to smash your boys?
Yeah, obviously for the upcoming artists that we're gonna do for the next couple of season 2 episodes, I don't have them all planned out perfectly, but I do have like a good list. I'm debating whether maybe putting on the Patreon the ones you guys really want to see. But other than that, let's try putting together our own Gesundheit story.
Okay.
Oh, man.
So it has to involve a non-entity girl.
In a parody.
Yeah. All right. So who wants to come up with our non-entity girl?
Can it be Adam as a girl?
You want to throw the beer though?
Are you saying that Adam isn't an entity?
How dare you?
I'm saying Adam as a girl wouldn't be an entity. As a man, definitely.
Oh, so he only has value as a man. What are you trying to say, Anai?
No.
No gender bender.
Okay.
So it's still
All
beer,
right.
but it's
Something
just a
else.
beer in it.
All right, Adam.
It's just people with longer hair and then like less beard a little bit, just a little bit less beard.
You basically want to be Lady Beard.
Yeah, there we go.
Let me just write down the name of the artist he suggested that I hadn't already thought of real quick. I will add it to the list of artists we may or may not be looking at this upcoming season.
Where are you trying to write it?
Oh, I'm trying to write it on my phone.
Oh, okay, here.
I'm
I
just
got
trying
it.
to go up on the comments.
Yeah,
So,
okay, Bob.
What did he say?
What do you say?
He says, "Thank you, I appreciate it. That was my son playing Mario."
Mario.
I believe you. Sure.
A likely story.
So yes, one of you needs to come
Well,
up.
considering the work we watched, it'd be more appropriate to use Raven or Anai as the pro tag with some new equipment. Trying to be polite with that one.
Alright. Which one of you wants the dick?
The
Sapo.
Match Badger 3000.
Alright.
Let's just make up somebody.
Make up somebody.
All right, you were the one that started throwing down the gauntlet at Adam. You got to come up with a non-entity girl.
Okay.
Who's
She,
up?
she has to have a braid.
Yeah, she has to. You have to tell us what her braid looks like and where it's at.
Okay. She has a braid that's like only half of her hair, but it's like an updo kind of thing, and it ends right here. It's like really long, and her hair's really long. Black hair, normal height, normal everything else.
Okay.
And her name is, I don't know.
You don't have to. Well, you can just come up with the first name, but you also have to come up with like the basic idea of who she is.
Wait, who's gonna come up with a parody? Adam, what's this a parody of?
Oh, we gotta do the rest of the story and then I'll think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I gotta narrow it down. Get this too.
What is height of dong?
Inuyasha, damn it.
That's just a dojin.
I know.
I don't know. What else do I need to come up
Oh, who is she?
What does she do?
with? Okay.
She's obviously not in any clubs.
She's a barista.
Okay.
Is that how you say that
Yeah,
word?
barista.
Barista. Okay, barista.
Here, I'll add the parody. This is a parody of isekai.
Oh no.
Parody of
Isekai.
isekai? Okay.
So trapped in another world.
Well, they're.
I love ReZero.
Well, it's like
Fuck that
what-
protagonist. This guy's an idiot.
I know, I hate him too.
Everyone else in that show is a better character than him.
But he can just he has quick save though.
Yeah, but he's a dumbass.
Yeah. That's how he plays games. He's like, quick save. I'm dead. I know what to do now.
Gee, what happened? I died. Let me die 15 more times before I know how to fucking attack.
To determine anal circumference. This isn't fatal.
I mean, in this in his art style, I mean, they got baseballs up their ass. Like it's pretty.
Oh wait, Daestra said, "How about a piece of Kubrick's work like 2001?"
2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah, not The Shining though. So okay, so
I'm
she's
afraid
she's
I
an
can't
astronaut.
do that.
She's an astronaut.
She's an astronaut. Astronaut.
Astronaut.
Astronaut.
She's an astronaut.
So you have a non-entity, a barista.
No, astronaut.
A barista
Okay.
in space.
A barista. Yes.
Space barista.
Yes.
Alright, so there's this basically, so it's a parody of sci-fi where you have all this epic stuff happening on the spaceship. However, our non-entity girl
It's just
is
a
the barista on the spaceship.
Yeah.
She doesn't get to go on the cool missions and go fuck sweet alien dudes.
No, she's a non-entity. Xavier, take the situation one step further. What happens? What takes her out of her non-entityness?
Let's say something completely mundane. She has to take out the trash, but then she, in her fantasizing about wanting to be something more, she gets lost on the spaceship.
With a
And
bag full of trash.
Yeah, and she's like, I don't know where to go.
Never done this before. Later. Yeah.
And let's say she runs into a sort of containment area for extraterrestrial species that they find that are that they want to know more about.
Can it be a cyborg alien dude?
It can be, but Chaz, destroy our expectations now.
Destroy your expectations. Okay, well, the immediate expectation.
We're expecting tentacle monsters or like actual, you know.
Okay, I'm going to destroy your expectations right now. So,
There's a vampire.
Space vampires! Ah!
the non-entity is tired of being a non-entity. And she wants to start a new life, but she's got nothing to go on with. So, the cyborg that she meets is actually the curator, the caretaker, the zookeeper of this containment area of extraterrestrial life. And they work out a deal where the cyborg actually plays matchmaker to set her up with one of the extraterrestrial creatures that they can then free and return to his home planet to live as a queen and no longer be a non-entity.
Adam, take it from there. Perhaps Melinda wants to take it from there.
Though I guess the one like the destroy your expectations even more.
It turns out she liked the cyborg the whole time.
But she wants to be a queen, so she just goes with it. Her heart's broken. The entire
NTR.
time.
He was laying down on my foot.
How dare you? Just kidding.
All I'm thinking is Gintama parodies. I'm like, no, it doesn't work out.
Get Gintama out of your mind, Adam.
Hey, Ken, it's on my shirt, Josh.
Adam. There's more than one anime.
This was all the anime, Chaz.
Okay, it's a space anime.
No,
Come on.
this is-
There's Gundam. Gundam.
Cowboy
Cowboy Bebop.
I was about to get Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah.
Space Dandy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god, yes. I got really excited.
Come on, Adam, throw some furry in there. Come on. Space Day.
Cat Planet Cuties.
Okay. Well, actually, she goes like the one she goes after is it's called the robot's brother. It's the best. Yeah. So she's like still on the ship, but she's
So she gets all this dick and she's just like, nah.
like the mechanical dildo stuff.
I want a guy like you, but a guy that's not you. Your brother.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
It's because the brother has the attachment that does this.
Yeah, that's the
He's a newer model.
Yeah. Yeah.
Meet my younger brother. He has an updated OS.
pleasure seeking.
All right, Melinda, take it home.
What?
I don't know how to take that on.
What kind of degenerate acts did they get into?
Does she have them? Like,
Yusuf is telling us that this is literally the plot to Nier Automata.
I don't know about literally. Or maybe I just didn't play the game enough?
We haven't thrown in
He
any
didn't get the
philosophy
secret
yet,
ending.
though.
I didn't get the secret ending. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, the one where you delete your save file?
Oh.
Have you added to it?
Yeah, I said this was going to be a parody of isekai, and then everybody subverted my expectations by sticking with sci-fi.
I mean, well, she's stuck in another world. It's just that, it's in space.
Let's see.
You have a barista in space, wants to take out the trash, ends up in the alien containment facility, and Adam said that rather than fall in love with the aliens, he double subverted her expectations. She wants a cyborg's brother.
With the special.
What kind of dope cyborg sex do they get up to?
Is this a vibrator mechanic? Is this a vibrator? Just kidding.
It's justified. I mean, yeah.
She could end up fucking the brother, and then the older brother just jumps in there trying to do a threesome.
Aha,
Make
the
it.
newer models have overheating problems. We're built for endurance.
There you go.
No, but then he double subvert the expectation. They end up combining.
Oh.
And so she's literally basically.
And
in a
it's
gun-
got like a double.
Yeah, she's in a Gundam suit, but basically the Gundam suit she's inside of is fucking her basically.
It's kind of like Darling in the Franxx, where she's on her hands and knees, one dude's behind her, the other one's shoving her.
Except it's the
The
robot.
doctor knew exactly what he was doing. He was making those. It's like, okay, in order to pilot them, the girl has to be like this, the guy has to be like this. Wait, why? It's the only way to work. Shut up, did you design them? No.
Alright, how do we bring this story home then?
Oh my gosh.
Anybody can contribute to the ending.
Well,
Babe, you're the writer.
I'm the writer. So
She gets reprimanded for leaving her post.
So because she chose the cyborgs, she
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
is now in charge of the extraterrestrial containment area, which ends up being a no. It ends up putting her in a diplomatic position to the other extraterrestrials, and she ends up becoming the most important person on the ship. No longer a non-entity, and has lots of freaky robot three-ways inside her sex gun.
She got fired.
So what's it
Gangs
called?
bangs all the
Exactly.
aliens.
Alright, now we gotta name it.
Hmm.
You can also think of the kind of names that Gesundheit uses.
They're the third or fourth page, I think.
As fast as I can.
You okay?
It
Oh,
broke.
yeah, I broke it.
You're traveling through time.
Traveling through time and space. Having sex with Gundams.
Gundams.
There we go. The kind of names he has: Depth Psychology Rendezvous, Suraimon, Class Rep versus the
Deep
World.
Space 9 Inches by Daestra.
That's pretty fucking good.
Yeah, there we go. Deep Space 9 Inches is our best attempt at trying to parody the master of hentai parody, Gesundheit.
I hope he approves of this. Maybe he'll draw it.
Yeah, thank you
That's
all.
how you know he watches. He's like, I got you, boys.
Oh man, if Gesundheit Sensei watches this,
Gesundheit senpai.
That's sensei.
He's a story.
some of us consider him a teacher. No, but yeah, thank you all for tuning in to this.
Coffee mate pounded. I kind of like that one too.
Yeah, thank you all for tuning in and hanging out with us for another episode of the Hentai Lit Club. This episode, you're probably, obviously if you're here, you're listening it to on the stream, or you're going to be watching it later on YouTube. If you're watching it later on YouTube where it's going to be posted, like, subscribe, blah, 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 shilling our own channel.
Daestra asks next episode.
The next episode, that should hopefully be 2 weeks from today.
Oh, also remind me, I need to get you our updated patron list because
Okay.
the one you have is outdated.
Okay, I'll get to that. Yeah, she has mentioned the patron. You can throw money at us and we'll use it to buy hentai and other things.
Fuck.
If we get enough money, we're gonna buy Adam a full Ahegao sweatsuit.
That comes with
That's the
a
dream.
hoodie, pants, socks, underwear.
I was somewhat part of that earlier with my shirt and socks.
Except actually no underwear. That's too expensive. And
Although
do you
the,
really
the underwear you wear on the head.
do you really want a mouth around your penis? No, you don't need that.
but what? This is a free blowjob. I said that.
But yeah, if you're listening to this on any of the various podcasting places, please follow this podcast.
Comment.
Yeah, and comment. If you leave a comment, I will look at it. I will try to respond to it promptly. Obviously, we also have a Discord that you can see the link up to over there.
Daestra says he's still waiting on the furry suits. Just.
Well, for the Werewolf the Apocalypse, once again, we need more money on the Patreon. As we announced yesterday, if we get $1 million a month, we're gonna do an anime adaptation of Gamblefish. We'll buy the rights and everything.
I mean, hopefully $1 million is enough.
Well, it's a month though, so
we save up for all
Oh, yeah,
that.
I guess $1 million a month, if we could do it eventually.
Yeah.
But other than that,
Also, Bob, thanks for coming in.
oh yeah, thank you, Bob.
It's always a good time to see you, buddy.
We miss you.
Come play games with us again.
We miss you. The fans miss you. You are a beloved character.
Anytime you want to come back, just let us know.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, but other than that, stay caffeinated and fap on.
Oh, that's my cue.
Oh my god.
This was your idea. All you.
You made him do this.
All you right now.
And now I have to maneuver this to disconnect.